Hello, and welcome to the show because you are now tuned into a brand spanking new Monday Night Live. That's right, aka the Hangout stream, aka the Chill stream, baby. All fired up for February 13th, 2023, and brought to you by yours truly, the man, broadcasting from behind the curtain. You know who I am. Because if you don't know by now, you can visit www.livefreeliverich.com. Or there's always another option. You can simply Google this name and you can find out. How you guys doing? Who's in the chat already? Already someone in the chat? This is unprecedented. Cross Comics, you are a newbie. Welcome. Hello. Let me clue you guys in on what's going on with the show tonight. If you're coming in, go ahead, drop me, say hello in the chat. Let me know. There's no need to be shy. I just like to know who took the time to stop by. Hello, Gary, another newbie. Welcome. All right, this is what I have lined up for the show tonight, you guys. I have a featured video of an indie author who's new to the Monday Night Live, but not new to me, as I've seen a novel of his make the rounds through the grapevine. But tonight in his video, he has a cover art reveal and a special announcement. I also have a February book funnel to share with all you love bugs out there. Speaking of which, I will be reading an article on cheap and nasty jewelry tonight. That's right. Perhaps you'll get some last-minute gift ideas for your Valentine. I am excited to talk about a new Indiegogo campaign with you all, as it is actually my first Indiegogo campaign that I myself have contributed to or donated to. And I'm excited to talk about that. And we're going to be getting to that tonight. And for good reason, I have to say. I'll be revisiting a previously pitched hot topic because I think the time is ripe. You know, it's ripe time that we dive just a little bit deeper with the subject matter. I think that people are ready for it, and it's been a lot of talk has been starting to circulate a little bit more regularly around the circles. But before we do all of that, first things first, I like to take this time and you guys go ahead, kick back, relax. You can be a part of the chat. You are very much a part of the show, just as we are here. And I'd like to slide into my first segment of the night, where I like to talk about some books that are currently available. Yes, some books that are currently available or coming soon to an online store near you. Yes, it's true. And to help me, do you know where you are? Are you lost, sir? I'm just messing with you. To help me with this, I have a visitor with me here tonight. He is no stranger to the Monday Night Live. Actually, he's had his book has been featured on the show multiple times. Well, his work has been featured on the show multiple times. He's the author of The Revenant and the Tomb. We've had featured audio samples of both The Revenant and the Tomb and his upcoming release, which is what we're going to be talking about here tonight. I would like to welcome my guest here, author Herman P. Hunter.
Hey, idly ho there, good Simpson neighbor.
Hey, idly ho. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Excellent. Anyways, I'm good. Well, actually, okay, yeah. Still
Did
coughing.
you do anything special during the week? Anything notable?
Actually, I was sick last week, so yeah, that was notable. I was sick. So, and I was on Drink with Crazy's live stream on Friday, and that was entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
Did you see the meme going around, the the Wig of Destiny.
No.
Yeah.
Is it in the Gilded?
It's in the Gilded. It's also on Twitter, so you'll have to take a look at it.
I
So
will. So
that was notable.
I did do. There was a first for me this week. I actually, for the first time, and finally, because it has been on my my kind of my entertainment bucket list for a while, but I finally watched The Great Gatsby. Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
It's the newest, not the old one, but the newest version with Leo DiCaprio.
No, I haven't seen that one. I saw the one with Robert Redford, and I think I read the book in high school, but
Yeah, I was going to say, well, so I watched the movie. At first, I was like, I mean, I'm not going to get into a whole spiel about it, but at first, I was like, because it's kind of like, it's kind of like they have like, you could see how it had like the more modern influences, like, with like the hip hop music and stuff like that in there a little bit, not too much. They didn't overdo it, but is a little bit. But story wise, at first I was like, this is dumb. This is like some kind of like romance, like soap opera type stuff. But then there's a turning point. It's a long movie. It's like over 2 hours, but there's a turning point, like late, or a crescendo event, like late in the story, where I'm like, okay, that makes me rethink everything that happened earlier in the movie. And then it actually inspired me. I did actually pick up the Great Gatsby book shortly after watching the movie. I'm like, okay, because the reason why I did that is because I actually heard that the movie itself, like the novel, I should say, does not adapt well to video format. In other words, film format. That's what I've heard from people. So I'm like, okay, well, if the movie, and I could sort of see that because there's a guy writing, there's a writer like throughout the movie, and there's a lot of narration. In other words, the movie doesn't, I could see where there are action scenes, but there's a lot of narration, like dubbed over narration during the film. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's what they mean by like the novel didn't really translate to film all that well. So now I'm like, okay, now I got to read the novel.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say is that for people in Booktube, like if you want to create content that like clickable content that would or content that would definitely get you clicks, at least from this guy right here, is make like videos where you compare novels to movie adaptations. I'm a sucker for that type of stuff. Like just to see, because for me, like I've done it, not that I've made content about it, but I like doing that personally. Like in other words, with the classics, one that comes right offhand is Fahrenheit 451, which is one of my favorites. So I've read the book, and then they have actually multiple movie adaptations for that novel.
Yeah.
Have you seen any of those?
I've read, once again, Fahrenheit 451 is one of those things I probably read in high school, and I've seen a number of them. I don't think that any of them came off very good.
They do change stuff.
The more recent one that I saw, and actually was the movie that inspired me to go get the book, and that's always the way it seems to be, was 13th Warrior. I watched the 13th Warrior, the movie, and then I went and I got the book from Michael Crichton. It was Eaters of the Dead. And both are excellent. The movie was excellent, and the book was excellent, but the two are like, they're nothing like each other. Well, I wouldn't say nothing. There's commonalities, but the book is way more based in like sort of the Viking lore and is written in a very historical format, whereas the 13th Warrior is a straight, Seven Samurai adaptation. And both are great, but it's like loosely adapted. And there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on with 13th Warrior, which makes me think they tried to make it like the book, but they ended up making it too dark, and so they had to kind of like juggle stuff later. It might have been based on Beowulf, but I think some people have said it's more like Seven Samurai.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other ones on my the classics bucket list that I'd like to. Believe it or not, I actually haven't read Dracula yet, the original Dracula, but I've already seen a couple of the adaptations. Have you seen that one?
I saw.
Or read the book as
I
well.
I read the book a long time ago, and once again, it's one of those in one ear out the other at this point.
Hmm.
I don't recall if it was that close. There's a lot of adaptations of Dracula.
Oh, there's a
So
ton. But
yeah,
I watched yeah, there was a couple. I liked them. But anyways, with The Great Gatsby though, I'm like, it was just one of those things that popped up, and it happened during this week because I saw it on YouTube. It was actually free to watch on YouTube. So that's why I finally was like, all right, I'll check it out now. So I
the
did.
ones that I have seen is like Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, the Narnia stuff, and the Narnia. If I remember correctly, the Narnia stuff was fairly close. It's only been 3 movies. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'd read that whole trilogy, but I mean they've only ever done one book. They did, I think BBC did a series on that, but it wasn't. Those books, you can't really adapt them. They're freaking hysterical books. I think it's Douglas Adams. He's got this very Ray Pierce sort of wit, and they kind of go all over the place as far as where the story goes. And I don't think you can really adapt those books well to like even a series or a movie. So, and then the most recent one, although I haven't read the book yet, was Childhood's End, and I forget what that was
Yeah.
based off of an Asimov story that. From what I saw of the detail, I looked up on Wikipedia as far as the details. It seems to kind of mesh close with the book. Another one was Stephen King's Dreamcatcher, and the movie was actually fairly close to the book. And then Carrie was kind of close to it was Carrie. Yeah, it was Carrie. It was kind of close to the book. So I had to drag myself through Dreamcatcher. I loved Carrie.
Dreamcatcher is so long ago that I've watched that one, but I didn't read it. Even though I'm from Maine, I still have yet to kind of really dive into anything Stephen King. There's just nothing. It just doesn't like. I'm just not compelled to at this time.
Yeah, the
But
older
I know,
stuff is much better.
yeah.
And there's also some of his short content's actually pretty good. And then Lovecraft, there's a bunch of Lovecraft stuff, but none of that. Dagon, maybe there was a B movie done for Dagon, which I forget what the story is. I forget what the actual story is. The story is named, but the Dagon movie that was pretty close to the Lovecraft book, or not the Lovecraft book, but the Lovecraft the short story.
I read that one.
And
That's actually that is one of the ones on my list as well. It's for watching that one.
yeah, and there's one called Unnameable, which was partially that was loosely kind of adapted. There wasn't much to the short story. All there was talking about the face etched into the glass, and that's kind of where a bunch of those Lovecraft, those more popular Lovecraft B movies, were always done with these short stories that really focused on one tiny little aspect, and then they built the story out from there.
Speaking of, and it is interesting how they can adapt a short story into a full-length feature film. I think that maybe the short story format is easier to adapt into a movie format because there's not as much material stuffed into it, whereas the
Exactly.
novel, it's like, they got to cut stuff out just for time
Exactly.
constraints. Whereas, speaking of Stephen King and short stories, they actually are, believe it or not, I literally tonight, I just saw a trailer for some Children of the Corn remake that they got lined up.
Yeah, God knows what that'll be like. My another one that I really liked, and I have yet to read it, but I think it was a novella, was Night Flyer. And Night
I've seen that.
that
I saw
is
that.
that is a great movie, and it is a hidden gem of a movie. And
It is. It didn't get a lot of hype at all. It's
No,
like one of those ones that even as a kid, like I remember seeing, because if you see the VHS cover of the film, it's atrocious.
Yeah.
It looks fucking awful. But the movie itself isn't bad. It's not
Yeah.
bad at all. I didn't
So
read the book. I haven't read the story, but the movie itself is not bad.
yeah, I think it's a novella. It's either a novella or it's in a collection. And the problem is trying to hunt down those collections because he's in so many of them. So
Oh yeah. Well, speaking of stories, let's get to your stuff. You know, let's talk about you a little bit. We got because you have this is actually, so this is a book we've had a little sample of it on the stream before, but this is actually in pre-order
yep.
right now, and this is coming out March 3rd, and this is your full-length novel. Well, it's
Yep.
a novel. Where is it? The Wizard's Stone.
Yep.
So let me get you over here so you can kind of like introduce this story to us and see what this one's all about here. Let me just. Oops. One moment. All right, so take it away, sir.
Okay, well, I'll give you the blurb on the back.
Yeah.
It says, a wizard's assistant named Odo, a journey that takes him halfway across, a journey that takes him halfway across the world. In his possession, a mysterious object, warded and sealed. To protect him, a group of mercenaries paid a fortune in gold. And from the start, they are being hunted. What stalks Odo in the night, and will he live to complete his mission? And then on the Amazon, there's another blurb here, which is a little bit more scaled down. It says, Odo didn't know what was in store for him when the wizard called him into his study. The wizard gave him a simple task: deliver a stone wrapped, sealed, and warded to a king halfway across the world. And to this end, Odo will be protected by a band of skilled mercenaries paid a staggering fortune in gold. Yet the outside world is not as certain or safe as that of the wizard's compound, a fact that Odo will learn much to his horror and regret.
I will say something right now about the blurb. I will say that it's pretty clear that you've already kind of like set the stakes like right off the bat, where it says that, like pay like literally paid a staggering fortune in gold. So now I'm already thinking to myself, okay, what's the deal with this stone here? You know,
Exactly.
obviously it's a big friggin' deal, literally in that aspect.
Yes.
Plus guarded. So, you know, and it definitely has so this sword and sorcery type of feel. But you've told me before when I was covering The Revenant and the Tomb, your first book, that it's sword and sorcery-ish. Like what do you mean by sword and sorcery-ish? Like,
well,
is there elements of high fantasy in there?
There's elements of high fantasy. And once again, I write primarily Christian, what I would call Christian fantasy, although it's really not Christian fantasy because I don't include like the apostles or it's very sort of Old Testament-ish oriented. There are prophets in the world. The wizards are sort
Old Testament. Oh,
yeah.
shoot.
Yeah.
Getting real,
you know, blood and guts. Anyways, so there you have like prophets, you have sort of a very loose religion of a singular god, and heaven is actually located across the sea, and you have to pass through a sea of mist. A lot of that is sort of figurative. But then you also have other religions in there as well. There's one I kind of mentioned in the first book, which is the religion of the Four, which is something I'm going to start digging more into later books. And there's also a couple other polytheistic religions in there, which is also sort of exposed in both this book and other books as well, because it does reference other people mentioning multiple gods.
Just for people who are unaware of your other work, are they connected in any way?
Not directly. All the books that I'm putting out are loosely connected, and they're actually kind of telling different pieces of a history that's leading up to a trilogy, or actually not a trilogy, but a series that I have waiting. Uh,
Is that an inside info that we just got right there?
kind of. I kind of touch on it in the forward of the Wizard Stone.
Okay.
I actually have books sitting out there waiting to be published, and actually they're all first drafts. Well, not really. Some of them are third drafts, but a bunch of them are first drafts. A character that shows up at the end of the Wizard Stone has his own series. I have 2 books already done.
Oh wow.
Might do 2 more on that. And the stone itself, now this is inside info. The stone itself is related to the series that I am writing to, which is about a character named Frankie. It's sort of a background piece of information that I'm kind of filling in here,
Okay.
or get kind of hinting at here. And in addition to that, I've already sort of planned to write a book. That this will be book number 4, which will be sort of the prequel to the Wizard Stone, and will involve that stone,
All
kind
right.
of. So I do a lot of hinting, I don't actually tell everybody stuff up front, sort of keep them guessing. And that's part of why I'm writing this stuff in sort of this disconnected manner, because with the body of work, I want to create a fandom that sort of like theory crafts and guesses and interacts with one another and tries to delve maybe some of the secrets that I don't reveal in
Oh
the book.
yes. See, that's it. That's what that
Yeah.
not to cut you off there, but I want to extend on that point is just to say that like when you and I definitely appreciate you sharing that little tidbit there because I think that, there's definitely like there's this whole new like emerging culture, if you will, around the like the indie scene. And I think
Hmm.
that what makes the indie scene any different from the mainstream, except that it's more of a community based thing. And by community based thing, I mean like what's stopping us from doing things that you just said right there. So, like, say one of our, one of our own, people who are in the scene, you're passionate, and it sounds like what you just revealed right there. If it says anything at all, it should tell people that you are staying busy.
Yeah.
You have stuff lined up in the pipeline, and this isn't just like a one and done and then you're out of here. Like you're
Yeah.
here
No.
kind of like for the long haul. You want to be a part of this. You want to help kind of develop this culture in your own way through your art, and your contributions.
Hmm.
So I think that it makes it kind of worth it for there to be a fan base around these types of works. Whereas say if someone is just like, in other words, just say like someone random comes through and they're like, hey guys, I got this new epic fantasy. They got one book to their name. I got this epic fantasy. It's 500 pages, something like that. And say you really like that book. You really dig it. But then you don't hear from that author, at all. Like they just kind of disappear off the scene. And the point that I'm getting at here is that you're kind of like stating, guys, it's okay if you get into these books and you create, almost like you can create content based on the books, around the books,
Hmm.
you know, uh, get involved, create like I've had the idea of like maybe someone out there creating like an indie book club type deal. And kind of like how people would do with like Game of Thrones, like a show, there'd be a
Yeah.
show, and then people would do like after the show type of content where they do like roundtable discussions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That type of stuff, but
That's
with
and that's
but with indie.
that's exactly where I'm trying to. That's exactly what I'm trying to reproduce.
Do you have a
The
blog?
Yeah, I do have a blog. But I haven't been updating it lately. Probably should. I've been very busy. It's this book has taken a lot of time. So I have a blog. I have my YouTube channel. My blog can be found at my site, which is www.hphunterwriter.com. Um, and
Of course, I
so
will be adding all your information in post
yeah,
production for you guys who are watching on the replay. But yeah, go
and
on.
and so yeah, then what I'm attempting to do with these books is actually right along the lines of what you said, and it actually got inspired by um he was getting into some of the George R. R. Martin, Song of Ice and Fire, theory crafting groups as they were waiting for the Winds of Winter to come out. And so, there would be like lots of, all the speculation on all the unresolved threads. And I was like saying to myself, that's actually kind of cool that there's a thriving community trying to figure out some of the what would be considered either holes or loose ends that are left open or things that are just kind of like skipped over. But the hint
Certainly.
it gets hinted at, and the things that haven't really been fully explained or resolved. And I was like, I'd like to kind of have that too, except except
Wouldn't every author?
yeah,
Honestly.
except actually, get to where I'm going. So,
But that's the big part of that. I think if anybody is going to inspire, people to get involved, is this if you have to incorporate, it's the elephant in the room, but you do have to kind of incorporate some sort of social media presence.
exactly,
Just to let people know, hey guys, I'm not going anywhere. I take this stuff seriously, even if you don't necessarily take yourself too seriously, but just your work. In other words, you're saying, hey guys, if you give my stuff a chance, like I'm here for you. I'm not, I'm here for the long haul. I plan on there being a whole building up a whole body of work. In other words, it's not just
I'm
a quick buck. In other words,
I'm dedicating myself to this probably till the day I die, or I go, get full on dementia and I can't do it no more. So I love doing it. It's another creative outlet. I've given up literally almost, or I should say, almost all of my hobbies to do this. I'm 100% invested into this, as far as on my off time. Wife's in full support. My kids think it's cool, but they got their own lives going on. So I'm full bore. I've got four. I've got the 2 books out. I got another 2 books planned. And then, like I said, I got those series sitting out there that I'm writing towards. And I have a whole world in my head, all kind of detailed, that I'm setting down in these books piece by piece, and allowing you to explore that world in little bits, as opposed to trying to make these huge series where I detail everything. Do it in different stories, do it with different characters, and allow you to get a little bit more variety as opposed to following the same characters across multiple books.
excellent. Well, I wish you all the best, man. And I see you around,
Yeah.
all the time. It's not just, it's not just the Herman show. Like I see you on all around the scene. Like you're tuning in, I see you in chats. I see you popping up on other people's podcasts and stuff like that. So you're very much like involved. And, so I definitely,
that in itself is a job. I try to stay connected with, all the other indie creators. It is, the more people I get involved with, the harder it is for me to spend time, and as much time as I used to. Like, Gary Shipman is in the chat, and Rick from Cross Comics is in the chat. And I go spend time on their various live streams, but I used to do it more. But now that I'm expanding, it gets less and less time. But I still try and do it. I still try to participate. And
yeah,
try
I
to
mean,
promote other people.
I mean, if it's one thing, if it feels like an obligation, but for me, it's just really just the fun of it, seeing what's out there. Kind of, I like to keep, basically just trying to keep a finger on the pulse of what's happening. So it is on the other end. That's why it is important that I think, and I've touched on this before, for there to be content creation out there, content creators out there. There's always room for more. I mean, we can only, you can only cover so many because the amount of indie artists that are coming out. I mean, the underground scene is vast.
Yes.
Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it isn't there. There's so much to discover. It's insane.
Yeah, and there's so much variety. And so I try and help as many people as I can. And I try to like support as many people as I can without, busting the bank here. So
Sure. And with your work specifically, that's what we're here for. And this is what we're excited about, the Wizard Stone. So I would just like to wrap it up here and say, well, this is, from what I can see clearly, even though it's not out yet, but the stats are there. So this is a significantly larger project in terms of size and scope than your first book, your first release. So is there anything that you would like to share, like one thing in particular that you'd like to share, something that you learned from one project to the other that you think has helped in developing your craft?
One thing that I learned is, well, actually what I'm learning is the editing process before production. And that's actually became the stickler with this book. I always had a vision for this book and how it would start and end and all the stuff in between. But when I got down to crunch time, and you start finding stuff that shouldn't be in there, and you go and then you got to fix it, then you got to revise your manuscript, you got to send it back up to the distributors. That's the thing that I'm learning kind of the hard lessons on, because when you go into the audiobook side of it, and the audiobook narrator is saying, hey, you've got a couple typos here, and it's like, oh my god, do I let this thing go, or do I fix it and try to make the book as best as I can? Because I'm putting my name on all this stuff, which technically isn't my name, but it's a pen name. But anyways, I'm putting my name on this stuff. I kind of have to produce the best that I can, and get it
Right
try to hit
before getting so close to release date too, and
yeah
and it's like, oh, now
yeah
it's gonna pop up.
yeah that's the other. I'm like, nah, I'm sitting there
Okay, all right. So
shaking.
editing, so that the edit a little bit more in
Yeah,
terms of the editing process, which as all writers struggle with,
yeah.
in some shape, fashion, or form. I would say, just lastly here. So, is there one thing like specifically that about this project, this newest release that you have, that you are especially proud of?
Um, yeah, I think the story overall, I think I hit the target with where I wanted to go with the story. The story is, I mean, if you really, the basic framework of the story is you have this very sort of, he's a decent kid and he's very bookish. Um, and he has his own sort of issues with his life, but he's sort of thrust into this world of adventure and he's not prepared for it. And as the adventure progresses, it gets darker and darker and darker, and he has to contend with all of that. I think as far as that story goes, I think I hit the mark. Um,
So the
and
characterization
yeah,
specifically.
characterization. I'm terrible at describing things, at least not in at least oral. Orally, I'm terrible at describing things. But yeah, I
Well,
think
okay.
characterization. I think I got that one right.
All right, excellent.
Pretty proud of the side characters too. I like them. They may seem like one note. Some of them may seem like one note characters, but I think the backstories I provided for them are pretty decent.
We
So
could get into a whole thing
yeah,
on that. I mean, I have my own reservations in terms of support characters. I feel like everyone thinks that every single character in fiction needs to be fully fleshed out in 3D,
yeah,
and I
no,
disagree with that
no.
entirely. But that,
Especially if they're red shirts.
yeah. Who's going to be the first one to die? I wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Well, Herman, before I let you go, I'll just say, is there an indie author that you'd like to give a shout out to, or a specific book that you'd like to recommend?
Well, I can make a couple of mentions here. There's Gary Shipman in the chat. He does Titan Mouse of Might, also of Packens Land fame. Fantastic artist. Um, Cross Comics is in the chat. He does the Canadian Shield, and he has also done some other projects with some other comic creators. You should probably check him out. And then on the literature side, let me bring this up because I know I probably won't pronounce this right. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I won't pronounce this right, but I think it's Kenneth Cromwell. Yeah, Kenneth Cromwell. Kenneth Cromwell and Charles Cromwell. They're the authors of the Tomb of Theragard, I think it's pronounced. They also have the same audiobook narrator as I do, which is Steve Fortune. So, and Steve Fortune, I mean, listen to the audiobook.
I've heard the samples.
Yeah,
I've heard the samples.
I thump my chest about finding him and using him every day. He's fantastic. He makes it sound like I know what I'm doing.
I'm gonna have to. I'll have to pick your brain another time, because I'd like to, maybe a little bit more on like the business side of things, and like how, kind of like, like how to go about like finding, these narrators and stuff like that. Down the road, I think I might like to get into audiobooks. I don't listen to them myself, but I'm saying I know a lot of people do, so it's probably a good idea to have a guy, you know what I mean, as far as that goes. But thank you.
The nice thing about audiobooks is that you can listen to the book while you do other things. So you don't have to separate yourself.
Sure. Like what do you do? Like running on your treadmill or something?
You're running on the treadmill, or like I listened to all the George R.R. Martin stuff while I was writing code or driving back and forth to work.
Oh wow! See, I'm not I can't, like, mentally don't really multitask like that. But do you have I would say, do you have a content creator that you'd like to suggest? If people are interested in discovering more from the independent scene. Of course, I'm only one guy. I can only cover so much.
Yeah, you and A Drink with Crazy. I've been showing up there a lot more. And the wig of destiny. So inside joke. But yeah, I've been showing up on his channel quite often. There's also two other channels. Yeah, Royce. Mike S. Miller, been hanging out with him quite a bit. I'm actually moderator in his chat. He does a show on Wednesdays called Drawn and Quartered, and then there's the Drawn and Quartered Fan Edition, which is run by Chester Busby, and that's on Thursdays. And the winner of that goes to the regular Drawn and Quartered, which is Mike S. Miller's.
See, eventually it would be nice, like, if I try to think, like, if there was some way of like basically make it so like people can kind of have some place to go, almost like any time during the week, basically.
Yeah.
If they can, in other words, like, can't tune in on a Monday, maybe hit like a Tuesday. There's something going on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, whatever. But like all week long, there's somebody. I'd like to know of enough people involved in the scene that I can point people and say, yeah, oh, you got something you want to jump in on a Saturday, whatever. There you go.
I think there's Jonathan. I think his name's Jonathan Douglas. I've been hanging out at his streams quite a bit. So, and he's kind of does along the same lines as you, although he's more, I think, gaming oriented. But yeah, I also, by the way, I'm also co-host on Drawn and Quartered Fan Edition. So, and we get a lot of people in there.
I've seen you.
Yeah. RH Snow comes in and draws every now and again. She's the author of Watcher of the Dam series. So you want to get a guest on, she'll talk your ear off. So
all right, well, good to know. I mean, hey, and please, by all means, let people know about the show. I mean, I'm open.
Oh, I do.
That's why I started as kind of like a, I do like to keep it somewhat structured, because like I say, I want a reason for people to go back and watch previous shows. I don't want it to just be an open chat and we just talk about random stuff. Like, I want there to be, some kind of structure as far as that goes. But I've definitely started this show because I want more engagement. So I want to engage with more creators out there and offer a platform for people who, want to take the more proactive approach to things. So yeah, I thank you as that being said, I thank you for sharing your time with me, coming on,
plugging your show on your show.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Herman Hunter, The Wizard Stone, everyone, is coming out March 3rd. It is available for pre-order right now. Take care, Herman.
Excellent. See you later.
All right. All right. Let's keep it moving. Got some more books here. A few more books to cover here. Yes, thank you guys in the chat, especially those of you who are new to the channel. Welcome. And this comes from an author. This comes from the Discord, and this is also an author who has also visited the stream before. And this is actually his second book, his second release in the Aluthia Chronicles, is book 2. This is a middle grade fantasy, and this is The Winter of Lost Souls by R.B. Worley. The Winter of Lost Souls. So here's the blurb. It's a fancy looking book cover there. Here's the blurb. After defeating the dragon, Alorin is now king in Aluthia. All seems right, but there is a growing darkness. One by one, people are finding themselves lost and with no memory of what happened to them. As the shadows creep in, Alorin must do whatever he can to stop all of Aluthia from being plunged into chaos. Like I say, middle grade. This is targeted between 10 to 18 years, 92 pages of children's sword and sorcery. Children need entertainment too, folks. Let's see what we have here. Oh, Rainer saying you'll re-listen. You're writing YA. You got a YA whip work in progress right now with no sex. Downgrade it to middle grade. I don't know, man. I'm thinking like that middle grade. I feel like there's one thing, like there's a lot of people writing YA. I mean, obviously that kind of goes without saying. Like YA is very popular on the book talk, the TikToks is popular, and it's popular on Booktube among all the young females. There's like almost a daily, there's new young females hopping on Booktube, and that's the first thing they want to start talking about is the YA books. So it's definitely a market for the YA crowd, but they like that. I'm under the impression that they like the YA stuff that kind of sneaks in the more adult-esque kind of material, or at least the risque type of stuff. But yeah, I don't hear a lot of people. Now, I say that, but I don't go looking for it. It's not something that I go looking for. But at the same time, it's not something that just pops up around the scene either, is people writing middle grade. So I think that there might be some untapped potential there for sure. If you could write, because middle grade can be quite compelling. Middle grade. Think of middle grade. When I think of middle grade, I'm not thinking picture books. I'm thinking PG-13. Middle grade is like, if you think about it, middle grade is like PG-13 or PG type of material, So you could write some really compelling stuff for middle grade. And I think that that's kind of untapped potential there, really. Yeah, they do. They do. They do. They like to play coy, but it's like the fake outrage. Like, oh my God, clutching the pearls. You won't believe what's in this book. D.A. Bell writes, YA, when I was reading them, was very female-centric. They are, for the most part, they are. What are the tropes of the YA? From what I've learned about YA, and I've actually read some YA. I've read some indie YA. I've reviewed some indie YA. And guess what? Guess what it had? The love triangle. The classic, the love triangle. And yes, there was a bad boy. There was a bad boy and there was a good boy. So all the tropes. It had the tropes. It checked the boxes as far as that went. Not in the woke way, but just in the YA sense. All right, we got a couple more books here. Let's get through this segment here. I'm having fun interacting with you guys, though. So it's not necessarily any rush, but I do have to get through this segment. But please, you guys, feel free to chit chat amongst yourselves too. I have some new people in the chat. I want, if you guys can get to know each other a little bit, what have you. And this is, what do we have here? This is coming from Twitter. From Robert Francis. He says, my 2 books on schizophrenia. They provide education while entertaining too. They cross literary genres and can be read by all. Find them on Amazon. By the way, I love our writer's lift. Yes. Every week I do some writer lift type of promos for the show, but at the same time, I try to reach out to other creators as well. And let's see what this one is. This is, we're going to cover one of them. Cover an eclectic mix of books on this show. This is On Conquering Schizophrenia, from the desk of a therapist and survivor by Robert Francis. Let's see what this is all about. I don't need these in. All right, there is the cover. And here is the blurb. On Conquering Schizophrenia addresses the topic of schizophrenia like never written. Author Robert Francis offers a revelatory and breakthrough paradigm regarding the regulation and defeat of schizophrenia hither yet present in the topical annals. In his conceptualization, Francis offers both a theoretical clarity along with the necessary pragmatics. And along the way, in a seemingly effortless stream of topic and word, Francis also broaches the topics of metaphysics, philosophy, theology, literary form, and humor, while crafting a long overdue methodology to conquering schizophrenia. As the reader peruses the pages, Francis's personal touch and affinity for his audience will quickly be experienced and felt. This is not only a book on conquering schizophrenia, but also on the greater life experience, including overcoming all typical generalized afflictions. This truly is a book with no precedent. All right, and that is 158 pages. 158 pages on schizophrenia, medical psychology, and pathologies. All right. It's kind of a first for the stream, actually. I've never covered a book like that before. There's something similar before, but yeah, Rainer. Oh my God. You won't believe what's in this book. So graphic and spicy. I was triggered the whole way. Secretly buys the entire friggin' trilogy. If you guys thought book 1 was outrage, if you thought you were outraged with book 1, wait till you hear me spill the tea on book 2 and book 3. Women. Like urban fantasy with the sexy vampire and regular guy love triangle. Yeah. I mean, that's an unfair contest. I mean, in all fairness, that is unfair to the non-vampire guy. I mean, everybody knows the vampire guy is, he's the alpha, if you will, the immortal. Grant chimes in. He says, I think YA could use more content without sexual content. It wasn't there when I was a teen, and those books were fantastic. And, I've said that YA, it seems a little bit sus nowadays. And I don't think I'm the only one that kind of holds that sentiment. YA has become quite sus. And again, it's not, and it's not even necessarily a genre. It's sold as a genre. People talk about it as if it's a genre, but I always kind of look at it as more of an age group thing. It's young adult. I consider it more of a category than a genre, but in terms of Booktube and stuff like that, Booktube spaces, there are when you're talking YA, a certain type of book definitely pops into mind. Whether it be a YA dystopian or a YA romance or a YA, paranormal. It's definitely, regardless of whatever sub-genre it is or genre that it's in, whenever you say YA, there's just certain tropes that just automatically come to mind when you're talking YA. Even though YA, in it and of itself, the name YA just means young adult. So technically, we are talking about adults. But when you think young adults, what are you thinking? Does that include 16, 17-year-olds? Are we talking 18, 19, 20-year-olds? Old enough to drink? Is that too old? What's the target demographic for YA? And I think that that's kind of weird. When you start when you start using the term adult in that way, I think it starts to become a little bit sus. Just say it's an adult book. Is it for adults or is it for kids? That's a clear divide for me. When you say, is it a children's book? You can say middle grade because it's middle. I understand middle grade and I understand early childhood. Early childhood, obviously, you talk about picture books. Middle grade, obviously, you're talking about, tweens. You're talking about the PG-13 type of content. That's clear to me. But what the fuck? What is YA? And that's why I feel like YA, that's why I say YA is sus, because I feel like it's really just a roundabout way of trying to sneak material to sell material to teenagers effectively. That's what I feel like it is. It's just a way to kind of sell material, tap into a teen market, and still retain the attention of adults too. I don't know. I say I don't write YA. I don't go reading a ton of YA. I haven't read a ton of YA, so I can't really, speak too much on it, but that's just my own thoughts on the matter. What is that in regard to? Do you have a review channel on YouTube? If so, you can drop me the link. All right, one more book. Let me get to this. Let me get this last book here, and we'll wrap up this segment. Closing in on this first hour already. This is coming from the Twitter. From the Twitter. This from Dana Brentson. She writes a little note, says, my fantasy novella, Desolate Seasons, is available on Kindle for 99 cents starting tomorrow. This was quite a while ago. So magic is waning, and Sam fights to keep his home safe with what little power he has left. All right, let's check this one out. Never know what you're going to get on the Monday night live stream. Never know what you're going to get. And that's the excitement of it, folks. And this is Desolate Seasons, the Ambient series. Speaking of YA, this might actually be in that category. Not 100% sure on that. But so far, the Ambient series by Sam. I'm not going to assume that it is, especially since we are kind of talking trash about YA. This is just a fantasy book by Dana C. Brentson. So let's check it out. Let's see what the blurb has to say. All right. There's the cover. Here is the blurb. So a novella. This is a novella series. So immortality is a burden. I do like that. There's a good first line for a blurb. Immortality is a burden, especially when it's tied to a grand destiny that can't be realized. Sam has been alone since his society was destroyed by a xenophobic maniac. Uh-oh. Trigger buzzword. Sam has been alone since his society was destroyed by a xenophobic maniac. She took everything from him and left a dangerous legacy to be passed along through generations of what was left of his people. He is the last of the ambient. The magic the ambient wields. The ambient wield fades with every decade that passes. Sam slowly becomes aware that this has affected the entire world, but other parts of the world still have strength, and Sam finds that, once again, he is the only one who can stand up to it. On behalf of the innocent people who know nothing of the danger they're in and the future of the ambient. All right, so we have a xenophobic maniac and some sort of kind of vague force that is causing this magic to fade here. 62 pages of 90-minute science fiction and fantasy short reads. And dark fantasy horror as well. All right. I would like to thank all of you that have contributed, shared your book with the live stream. And those are the books for this week, ladies and gentlemen. And be sure to tune in tomorrow, or if you're watching this on the replay, you could probably just go ahead and hit the community tab, and you can vote for which one out of those 4 books you thought had the most text appeal. That's right. In other words, which one out of those 4 books would you be most likely to pick up? And of course, if you would like to discover more from the independent market, you can head on over to my shorts tab or to my playlist tab and open yourself up some mystery packs. Inside each mystery pack is one cover card, which reveals a book from the independent market that was recognized by the Live Free, Live Rich network, and also includes a link to an editorial written specially on that book by yours truly. Now, moving right along to our next segment here. This is where I talk about, I do have some comments to address. Yes, this is a little as needed segment where I call Your Comments Matter. That's right. My comment section is not there to satisfy AI algorithms. My comment section is there to get in touch and engage with those of you who give my videos the time of day. So these are comments that could be across any of my videos throughout the whole channel, you know, even if it's from past live streams. So if you're watching this on the replay, you can go ahead, drop me a comment down below, because we do tend to talk about a lot of topics that go into some depth. So sometimes it might be nice if you just kind of take your time, take some time to kind of reflect upon some of the things that we may talk about, or, you know, some of the works. Like if you ended up, you can let me know, please, by all means, let me know if any of the books that I've ever covered during any of these shows, you have actually picked up yourself and read those books, and you can share that down below. I'm sure, you know, the authors, a lot of the authors, you know, and the writers that I've covered throughout the show might actually be regular viewers of the show too. So, you know, they might like to see that people are actually picking up their books and reading the books, you know. So, by all means, if you've ever picked up anything from the show, you've read it, leave a comment down below, you know. Let's see what we have here. Let's get into it. I know there's only like a couple to get to, but we also have some hot topic. Speaking of, you know, talking about things in depth, we do have some hot topic for tonight, and I want to get into it. It's not going to be perhaps as spicy as last week, but definitely a little bit. It's going to be a little bit. It's going to be deep. There will be some depth for sure. So let me pull up these comments. Okay. What do you guys got going on? Oh no, that was just the first part of the show. That was just my first segment. We still have some announcements, and we have a featured video, and we have a little bit of reading time. So if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome. You can always catch us on the replay as well if you have to go. James, what's going on, man? Glad you could make it. Did you do anything fancy during the week? All right, here we go. So your comments matter. And of course, let me get my, I don't always remember to do this, but I'll do it now. It's my top commenter. Top commenter. You guys want to be the top commenter? You want to win the prize? well, it's really no prize yet, but I might be getting something. Maybe I'll do something in the future. We'll see. But first one, this comes from Ben Pick. Ben Pick of Running to Write, his Booktube / Authortube channel. He's also an author. He writes sci-fi. And he left a comment on last week's stream. He says, "The glory of expiring copyrights. That is how we ended up with such modern classics as Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. It looks atrocious." Yes, it absolutely does. It does look absolutely friggin' atrocious, I have to say. And I was kind of touching upon that, and I called it free domain, but it's not free domain. It's I typed in free domain in Google. It's actually public domain is what I meant to say. When the copyrights expire, for those of you don't know, when classic works and stuff like that, the copyrights expire on them, and then they enter in the what's called the public domain, and then it's kind of fair use at that point. And what you do is like there was a thing with Amazon is you actually used to be able to just kind of republish stuff from the public domain. So like works of like literary works and stuff like that. But now they've kind of like tightened up their policies as far as that goes, because like so many people were doing that. You have to be like what they call transformative in some way. So in other words, you can't just like republish something from the public domain and just slap a new cover on it and call it good. No, it has to be like, say you got to reformat it in some way, or if you want to add like, footnotes, you want to add footnotes to it. You want to write your own kind of introduction to it. You want to put in illustrations. The work has to be what they consider transformative. There's a whole guideline to doing that. But what I was talking about last stream is like for editors out there, people who aren't writers, but say perhaps you're editors in the industry, something to consider if you wanted to kind of build up a body of work for yourself where you could kind of build up a residual income stream as far as that goes, and kind of start earning some royalties for yourself and get in on the game. I haven't done that myself, but I know of several people who have done that. Oh no! Are you assembling furniture? Did you do that too? Yeah, no doubt. All right, let's get back to these comments. And speaking of the devil, the right mindset, my top commenter. This is Thomas Beleza of the Right Mindset. I've actually was a guest on his podcast. He was actually the first podcast that I make a guest appearance on. So you guys check out his channel. He does focuses on the writing. He doesn't just do writing tips like just off the cuff. Like he's actually makes a living from writing. He's a writer, makes a living from his writing. He's very much involved in the industry, and he comes from working in the mainstream as well. He's been, I believe, specifically, he was a writer on SNL or for SNL before, and some other stuff like that. So you could check out his channel if you'd like. He's just another creator who is active here in the Authortube sphere, the Authortube realm of Booktube. He says, "Sounds like we're out of a job. Time to create our own publishing company." And that was in regard to our hot topic. Is TradPub obsolete? Is one of the hot topics that I had pitched. And in that one specifically, we were talking about Whitey. Does TradPub want anything? I was specifically talking about, does TradPub want anything to do with Whitey anymore? It doesn't seem like that's the case. It seems like the mainstream is actually being quite prejudiced against Whitey these days. So I guess it's really, especially if I would say as a rule of thumb, if you will, I don't want to discourage anyone from chasing their dreams. Look, if you want to send query letters till you're blue in the face, hey, maybe they'll give you a chance at that point. But as a rule of thumb, I'd say if you are male and you are pale, you might as well just friggin' go indie. You'll probably get a lot more done in the long run as far as that goes. All right. And now, speaking of hot topic, let's let me see here. Let's get into it. We have a hot topic to cover for tonight. Let's get into it. Yes, hot topic for content creators. This is where I pitch a hot topic to you guys, and then you guys turn around and you create your own content on said topic. And if you tag me in that video, then I may feature your video during a future live stream. Or else, you're always welcome to drop your comments on this video or any of my previously pitched hot topic videos and weigh in on the conversation, and I will address your comments live on the air. That's right. And tonight, we are revisiting an old topic for this channel, but very much a topic that is relevant to today and remains relevant and is becoming more relevant in our day-to-day. And that is the topic of art and artificial intelligence. Yes. We've already covered quite a bit as far as this goes. We've kind of touched upon all the surface. We've touched upon quite a few of the kind of surface level arguments and stuff like that as far as yay or nay. My original pitch was this, however. Is artificial intelligence even capable of creating art? Okay. I use very specific language here. Is artificial intelligence even capable of creating art? And also a secondary question that I launched this pitch was, what does it mean to separate the art from the artist? And can art become too far removed in this way? All right. So that's why I kind of like launched this topic, to kind of give you guys a little bit of stuff to kind of chew on for a while, think about, and just really, and come up with your own subjects, come up with your own subject matter on the topic. And you could come at this topic from all different types of angles. All right. And we've already covered quite a few angles. So this is not so much a series as much as we're just kind of embroidering the topic as various subjects kind of pop up. So you guys can come at this from all different angles. And if you go back and watch the playlist on this, you can watch these videos in any order. I just say part 1 is the pitch, and then anything after that, you never really know what you're going to get in the conversation. I get comments, I read articles, different things as they kind of rise, and we continue to embroider this topic. Hey, Kikoman is here. So let's get into it. And this comes from Running to Write. Ben Pick from Running to Write weighs in on art and artificial intelligence, part 7. So Ben writes, aside from public open sourced projects, the AI is probably scraping Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow, just like every other developer in my industry. And then, quote, garbage in, garbage out. I used to be able to recognize the pages developers would copy from because of the mistakes which were present in so, unless you scroll down in the comments or understand what the function is doing. It's only a matter of time before industries use AI to generate code, and I am terrified for how much destruction that will cause. Yes, the creative destruction. creative destruction as far as that goes. But I do kind of have something to say on that, but let's continue with this comment. Side note, most businesses treat open source projects terribly as is. There are several popular security tools I've worked with which use open source projects as the primary engine without acknowledgement or compensation. Yeesh. Bad form, bad form. Yeah. If people are already this wishy-washy when it comes to accreditation with real human work, just imagine how people are going to be when it's like AI. You know what I mean? Hey, thanks for the comment, Ben. Let me get in on that. Let me weigh in now. Kind of use that as a springboard. So we've talked about accreditation before. I believe that comment was, I was going into detail on an article. I believe that was the one where I was going into detail on a copyright claim. There's a class action lawsuit right now on AI, generative AI. More specifically with the chat GPT, and it has to do with generating code. More specifically, I believe it's a group of programmers that are behind the class action lawsuit. So just a little FYI as that develops, but it kind of like dovetails with what we were talking about before in the topic with dealing with accreditation with this whole AI thing. I saw it coming from a mile away. If you go back, you see the videos. I kind of like thought of this before it came up. There was an article shortly after I had mentioned something about it seems like it's wishy-washy in a legal sense. There was shortly after that, I covered an article where artists were talking about their styles were being ripped off. It was an artist by the name of Rakowski, who has worked for big companies like Blizzard and whatnot. And there were examples in there where they stuck his name in the prompt. They said, like, generate an image of like dragons battling or something like that in the style of ... And then they put the artist's name. And then it's like, it's pretty clear if you do a side-by-side comparison, it's pretty clear where the AI generators are getting their material from. Now, if I want to go into this, first, let me readdress some of the surface level, not necessarily arguments, but just kind of like surface level subject matter on this topic real quick before I get to some of you guys' comments. Here it is. All right. So one thing, as more and more people begin to kind of funnel into this conversation with the AI stuff, I just want to reiterate a few things that we've already covered on this topic and things that I myself have kind of come to an understanding on since I started covering this topic. And one of which is very, very early on, I had a YouTube comment. Somebody had stopped by and said, AI is simply a tool. And that's where they kind of left off. And that's, kind of the first, I think that's kind of like the first thing. I think that like, that's kind of like the general consensus, like the first thing that pops up in people's minds when they're first getting involved in this conversation is it seems like it's just almost like a knee-jerk reaction for people to say, well, AI is just a tool, like a paintbrush is a tool. But it's really not, though. As you kind of get to understand the systems and like the process of it and like what's really going on behind the curtain, it's really not a tool. I've made the analogy that it's not so much a tool as it's more of a machine. So you say, like, we use tools to work on machines, okay? Or like a paintbrush, if you want to use the art analogy, yeah, a paintbrush is a tool. But if you're going to say AI is a tool, well, now what are you comparing it to? You're comparing it to a pen. So if you say you use fucking MS Paint, using a pen in MS Paint is not the same as using AI image generators. Two completely different things. It's not a tool in that sense. I've argued that it's more of a machine. Why is it more of a machine than it is a tool? Because it's processing material like a machine would process material. So you have to have the material needs to come from somewhere. So like say in a plant, an assembly line, you have raw materials. So like you need like sheets of metal, okay? Like sheets of steel or something like that. And then you have like a machine that's going to press that metal and shape it into something else that's then going to be used at the tail end. That's how I would compare this whole generative AI thing. It needs raw material, the raw material being the prompt, okay, for at least for the text stuff. But then that prompt is really just a command telling it what you want it to make. And then in order for it to make that thing, it needs to actually have raw materials to pull from that it can then refine and turn into something else. Shape, mold, mix. You could say it's like cooking. So it needs ingredients in order for it to cook up something. That's what I mean. It's more of a machine than it is a tool. So we're dealing with a different beast as far as that goes. So now that I've addressed kind of the surface level thing, I want to kind of take this a step further and go a little bit deeper, because I have yet to hear anybody come at this from the metaphysical angle to any depth, at least. And I want to touch upon that. But before I do, let me check you guys' comments and see where you're at. There's a lot. There is a lot. And I'm not claiming, let me just say this as a disclaimer, I'm not claiming to have the definitive answers as far as, you know, it's my way or the highway, guys. I'm just covering the material. I have my own reservations about it. I have my own, believe me, I have my own opinions about it. And I've made those opinions quite clear in the past videos of this topic. However, that doesn't mean it's very relevant for our age, because this is allegedly, this is the first time that mankind has ever had to deal with something like this. I'm not really sure if people really grasp the magnitude of this whole AI thing. Like, we're dealing with something here. Like, I'm still figuring it out myself, to be honest with you. You know, I'm not jumping the gun and saying, Skynet, self-aware, you know, but, you know, is definitely not something that I take lightly. And I think that there's a lot going on here, not just in the pragmatic sense. Like I said, the surface level stuff, it's a tool, it's a machine. That's the pragmatic end of it. That's just the surface level stuff. What is it, you know, in a pragmatic kind of sense? But there's more to it than that. There's a psychological aspect to it. There's a metaphysical aspect to it. And that's the type of stuff that I kind of want to touch upon here. Just a little bit, because I'm sure I could do an entire video just on that. So Kikoman goes on. He says, we are at the brink of losing our status of stewards of the earth. Primates primates less than humans, humans less than AI. Are we though? Are we? We're going to get into it. It says, just like chimps don't understand highways, we won't understand the first AI goal, which will evolve within seconds. Oh, Redoubt Productions. Hell, coming in from Frequency Studios show. And oh dear, AI, the horror. Yes, dun dun dun. Welcome to the show. And Frequency Studios, huh? I want to say I'm familiar. I'll have to look it up later. Kikomon, keeping it light, he says, we are but ants who build the initial infrastructure. It's funny that you bring up ants, because I was going to get it. I was literally, you know what? I was going to bring up something where I'm talking about insectoid brains. There's definitely some people out there that I'm like, these people have no internal monologue whatsoever. They're literally, I'm like under the impression that there are people that walk among us that are literally operating on insectoid brain, just fully, just completely instinctual, just like moving around the earth, just fully instinctual. There's no like insight going on or anything like that. It's just reaction, complete react. It's just instincts and reactions, and that's it. Like no, like almost like zero self-awareness. The soy sauce, Skynet. Yes, Kikomon and his soy sauce. Kikomon is a soy sauce, isn't it? I'm embarrassed to say that I literally just put 2 and 2 together there. All right, let's see. Come on. What do we got here? Weigh in, guys. I'm sure. All right, here we go. Redoubt Productions says, I'm sure I'm wrong, as I'm a dunce with 21st century technology, but was under the impression AI art and writing pulls from existing content based on prompts. See, I've had a back and forth on that. I've read articles where it says it does not scrape the internet. And what you do is it requires you, the user, to upload stuff, upload images or whatever that you would like to train the AI on. But then I've also heard elsewhere in other areas that the AI does, in fact, scrape the internet. And it's just pulling from the search. So, and I'm at the point now where I lean more towards the more nefarious side of things, where with this AI stuff, that I do believe that the majority of these AI generators are just scraping the internet. They're pulling from articles, whether it's the chat GPT or it's, chat GPT, probably more so pulling from source code. So chat GPT pulling from source code and, maybe scraping articles and whatnot. And then you have the image generators that are, whether it be scraping Google Images or DeviantArt, because we've also covered an article on DeviantArt. Because DeviantArt, the angle on DeviantArt is they were introducing their own generative AI. DeviantArt was, or is, or have. They've already done it. So they have their own generative AI, which is, I think, in conjunction with Stable Diffusion, I believe was the one. But anyways, the whole article, the angle, I'm trying to look at this from an angle. All right. Try to get the big picture. What's going on here? Fuck. You say what you want about the process of it, but what's the big picture here? And the DeviantArt angle, I believe what the DeviantArt angle was, kind of proved 2 things. One, it proved that the AI image generators were in fact scraping the internet. Okay, so that's point number 1 that kind of proved. Point number 2 was that the DeviantArt website was effectively, by getting involved, isn't necessarily that they just wanted to get into the AI image generation game and how much of a blunder that was, but more so because of the initiative behind that, which was the No AI initiative. So it's like what they're saying in the article is that there's a feature so that all the Deviant artists on the website that use their platform, they have an option that they're automatically opted into, and then they can check the box to like make it so their work is allowed to use on AI image generators. But they're also kind of positioning themselves. You can see kind of the angle there. They're kind of positioning themselves as the only safe space where artists can upload their work. You see where I'm going here? So there's a lot of different types of angles that are at play here. Hey, Ruth, welcome. I think it's the first time I've seen you stop by a live stream. Happy to have you. Ruth says, someone shared a, quote, futuristic AI landscape with me a while back. It was a filtered picture of The Bean, a piece of public art in Chicago. I recognized it instantly. Yeah, and some of them it is thinly veiled. It is. It's very thinly veiled when they say, oh, allegedly it's creating new works. It's thinly veiled. It's got what I was saying is it's a machine. It's got a processed material that already exists. And then it takes that material, and the argument is that it's not stealing as much as the AI generator is learning. It's getting inspired, almost as if they're trying to argue that the artificial intelligence has an imagination of its own, which is bullshit, by the way, because if you understand anything, the most rudimentary aspects of computer code, you would know that that's bullshit. A computer does not have an imagination. It is a machine. It has lines of code. It has an operating system. It runs through a checklist of functions that it has to go through. So I've said it's not the same thing as a human being looking up images on Google and then trying to use those images as inspiration and then use their own human mind imagination, which is something that is however you want to describe it. I told you, I'm going to touch upon the metaphysics a little bit, whether you want to call it the divine spark, mankind's divine spark, the human imagination, almost like mankind's connection to the big man upstairs, the powers that be, something otherworldly. That is how you explain the human imagination, our third eye, whatever you want to call it. The computer does not have that. So it's not the same as saying a human being looking at a picture and then trying to use their own motor functions and imagination to kind of recreate that image on their own. Now, I said, if you're going to argue that way, the closest thing you could do is say, all right, it's like printing out an image, putting a piece of tracing paper over it, and then training your muscle memory that way and saying, oh, okay, I want to draw something like a tiger or something like that. And then I train my muscle memory, and then over time, I can kind of do it without using the image, and then I can just draw it just from muscle memory alone, and then I can start tweaking it and moving it around and kind of try to have it in different stances and whatnot, and then even then you could argue, is that art, or is it really just someone who is learning theory, who is learning craft? You know what I mean? Because I also argue that theory and craft in it and of itself is not art. But that's a debate for another time. What I'm saying is any Tom, Dick, or Harry can go to art school and learn theory. Okay, you learn theory, and that's going to make it so you know the tips and the tricks to drawing this or that, and technique, understanding technique. But is that art though? Art. So just what I want to tap into here, art of something else is something that is more metaphysical. It's more philosophical. And up until this point in history, it has always been something that was distinctly human. Up until this point in history, it has always been recognized as something that is distinct to human beings, to mankind, separating us from the animal kingdom. And it's our way, art, for me, my understanding of art, which is not extensive, I don't have a liberal arts degree, don't plan on ever having a liberal arts degree, but that's neither here nor there. Art to me is something that has always been known as distinctly human, and subsequently I recognize it as what makes it distinctly human is it's always been all throughout history. It's always been our means of exploring the question, what does it mean to be? So what does it mean to be alive? What does it mean to be a lover? What does it mean to be in love? What does it mean to be a villain? What does it mean to be this? What does it mean to be that? What does it mean to be human? Because that's not a question that science can answer. It's a very philosophical, metaphysical type of question. It's a loaded question as well. And it's a question that mankind has always pondered, all throughout history. And it's something that I feel like it's a way of like relating to each other as well in that way. It's mankind's way of, like when something is a work of art, like it's almost like it's an unspoken thing. It's like you just know when something, like, you feel it, it's like a feeling, maybe not necessarily just based on emotions, but it's just like something about it, a je ne sais quoi, if you will. I might sound a little bit pretentious there, but that's the angle I'm trying to put out there, because people just keep talking about this AI stuff and they're looking at it from a very pragmatic lens. They're thinking, oh, I'm just going to make money, just make money, churn out. Oh, I'm going to learn how to, write the prompts and I'm going to be able to have Shakespeare on a snap of my fingers. I'm going to have Shakespeare. But I feel like you're not addressing the elephant in the room, that's not art. You have a product. Yes. You have a product that you of your own free will, you're using this AI stuff. You're using it. I understand there are people that are going to want to take advantage of it. I get that. And I understand it from that pragmatic sense that the AI is going to become more intelligent and it's going to eventually it'll pass the Turing test. Okay. Which is why I've also brought up that there has to be accreditation. We have to become perhaps a little bit more diligent in terms of understanding where our products come from. I know that could be a big ask for some people because, that's where I say accreditation. Because for me, if I look at a piece of work I'm not, I'll be honest with you, I'm not typically look at the copyright page. Like when I'm reading literature and stuff like that, I don't always know like who the publisher was, I know who the author is. But I'm not doing research. I'm not always doing research on an author. Like, oh, I want to know their personal life. That's what I mean. Like I'm able to separate the art from the artist in that aspect. I just want to read a good story, right? So I don't really care so much about the author's personal life. I don't care if they're problematic, or anything like that. A book is a book is a book. If you read whatever you want to read. There shouldn't be banned books as far as that goes. Definitely a strong proponent of free speech. But in terms of this accreditation stuff, I think that as this AI thing, since it's so new and fresh, it's like, I think that it really should be, I don't want more regulation too. It's a conundrum. That's the word. It's a conundrum because I don't want more regulation. That's the last thing that we want too. Because I almost feel like this AI thing, another kind of angle that you come at this AI thing almost being used as a red herring to kind of slip in more free speech regulation through the back door. That could be another angle you're looking at it as. And I don't want more regulation. However, I would like to know if what I'm reading or what I'm looking at was derived by an artificial intelligence generator. Because for me, because people may say, well, what's the point? I mean, what's the difference? If you can't tell if it was made by a human being or AI generator, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference being, well, for one, it takes away from the artistic merit. For me, that's a personal value judgment. Okay. That may not be true for everybody. Doesn't necessarily take away from the artistic value, like, and in the market value, but it would certainly take away from artistic merit in my eyes. And the reason for that is because at that point, it's not distinctly human. I say before, it's a metaphysical thing. So it's like, it's like finding out, okay, say you're a child, right? You're a child and you watch the puppet shows and stuff like that, and then finding out the puppet is not real and it's just a guy with its hand up its ass. It's kind of like that. It's like, in other words, now it has you questioning the meaning. Everything that was in that work, it has you questioning what the hell all that shit was all about. At least for me. And for me, that's what I mean by art. Because say you watch a movie and it's really moving to you, or you read a book and it really makes you think. It changes your whole outlook on life. That's art. But at the same time, I think what makes it art is knowing the fact that that came from a human being. And that was how a human being thought. And you're like, holy shit. Like, I wonder if that person was all alone in that way of thinking, and that may persuade you, that may inspire you to look into that individual's life, maybe learn a little bit about the author and see, and that may, that goes into the whole process of like understanding a work of art, like what goes into the work, where were they coming from, what was their history like, their background information. I admit, all things that I've never really typically done when reading novels and stuff. However, the more philosophical stuff, I would say I was interested in. In other words, like, for instance, like Ayn Rand, like reading Ayn Rand, her stuff is very philosophically thick. All of her books are kind of like big, long advertisements for her own, selling you her philosophy. But nevertheless, I still find some of them entertaining. So it does make you like look into it, and you want to know those things. So, I just wanted to kind of bring that angle up and bring up that subject, because I don't feel like there's a lot of people looking at it like that. And I feel like it's kind of an explanation as to why the AI and the artificial intelligence in art conversation is so emotionally charged, because I think that kind of offers an explanation, at least a starting point, as to why this conversation is so emotionally charged. Because I feel like the people who are pro AI, I'm not going to say, turn it into a thing like where, one side's better than the other or whatever. But I'm just saying people who are staunchly pro AI, in other words, the people who are more accepting of it and they want to do this and that, they're just looking at it. I don't think that they're evil per se. I'm not saying that they're evil or they're to be demonized. I just think that they might have a blind spot. They're just not they're not doing a very good job at trying to understand the other side. And I think that that's where the other side is coming from, where it's like, it's not just artists saying, you're taking away our jobs. I think it's more fundamental than that. I think it's more meaningful than that. It's more substantial than that. I think it's almost like I feel like the artists that are against the AI movement thing that's going on right now, they're kind of looking at like some of these people who are pro AI are just being spiteful, like almost like doing it like, ha ha ha, your existence is null and void. Your existence is obsolete. Almost like, or at least that's the perspective that I think that it feels like, why this is so emotionally charged. And I feel like that's the reason why, because people aren't discussing what is art? What does it mean for a piece of work, a painting, an illustration, a piece of literature? What does it mean for it to be a piece of art versus it just being a product? And I think that there's a difference there. And perhaps that's where the real debate, like the people who are kind of like anti-AI, maybe instead of like shitting on the AI so much, where I feel like people who are more accepting of the AI, you're not really going to, maybe you won't necessarily, you're not going to change their mind in terms of just attacking them and saying, you're demonic, you hate humanity, you're the devil, you're the Antichrist, or you worship the Antichrist. No, I don't think that that's a very productive way of continuing this conversation. I think the more productive way of coming about the conversation is start talking about what makes something a work of art, because I think we could all agree that there are some products out there that are made by human beings that, to call it a work of art would be quite a stretch as far as that goes, quite a stretch, and I'm sure you guys have your own examples. So we'll leave it at that. I'll check in one more time with the comments and we'll wrap that up. Closing in on 2 hours here. I got 2 more segments to go. I guess like a very complex search engine. Yeah, that was talking about whether or not it scrapes. Ruth says the guy who shared AI generated landscape had no idea his landscape was a real place. That's a little bit disheartening. I'm not going to get all melodramatic, but if they can't, if it is a little bit disheartening to think that there are AI generators that are scraping actual works of art, and the user of the AI generator doesn't even know these classical works of art that the AI is biting off of. So there's that. It's funny because I in one of my short stories, I actually kind of I imply that's implied. But read, let's see. Grant says, I read where an AI engineer spent his spring break designing a program to identify AI generated writings. Interesting. AI. What is that? AI on AI crime? Let's see. Redoubt Productions. I have played with some AI, quote unquote, art generators with the intention of getting some basic concepts for character ideas, for concept, not for publication. And, for me personally, it just doesn't interest me. But I've already mentioned the fact that I'm not going to, piss on anyone's parade. It's out there. It's like the genie in the bottle. Once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put the genie back in the fucking bottle. So really, when you get all up in arms over this stuff, you know what happens? You end up looking like the Karen in the room, and no one wants to be a Karen, as far as that goes. People are going to play with it, and I don't care. Like, if people want to play with it, I'm not here to ruin your fun. You know what I mean? I'm not here to be the Karen in the room. I can only speak my mind, as I understand it. So, people use it. I know of people, they use it for concept art, kind of just like quick, kind of get an idea of like, okay, well, I want my character to look like this, or if I describe my character in this way, what does that kind of look like? And then you get some ideas, and then you could tweak it or something like that. Say whether in your writing or in, say, a comic book or whatever. I was never satisfied with how my most cherished character was imagined as. Guess that says I'm thinking beyond the computer at this time. There must be special techniques people use, because I couldn't make diddly. Yeah, we're talking about theory craft. I mean, you can learn theory. There's theory in everything. Storycraft, whether you want to be an illustrator, there's literally basic theory that you can understand, and you can learn techniques. And it's just about muscle memory at that point. Once you understand the fundamental aspects of technique and theory, yeah, then it's all about application after that. And that's what I mean. Like, there's like this insectoid brain where it's just like that wants to say, only look at things from a pragmatic standpoint, and it's just about churning out work, or should I say, for lack of a better term, content. And content, I've used the term content, okay? And I understand what content is. Content is not art, okay? That's my own personal stance. But content should never be conflated with art. Content can have substance, sure. There's like trash content. There's plenty of You want to go on it, you want to, find trash content, go on any of these short form video format websites. There's plenty of trash content there for you to consume. But then there's also, content that offers substance. So just because something is content doesn't automatically mean it's garbage, just because it's not considered art. But art is something in it and of itself, and it's distinctly human. And it's something that I think does offer, it's both aesthetics. It's like a combination of aesthetics and substance, and more than that. And there's a third ingredient. The third ingredient being what is often referred to as the X factor. Okay, the mysterious and awe-inspiring, that inspires wonder and amazement, the X factor, and nobody can really explain what that X factor is. It's the je ne sais quoi of the art world. And not everybody has it, and perhaps that might be the pro-AI stance. Maybe some of the pro-AI people are a little bit butthurt because perhaps they are a failed artist. Maybe they are somebody who they just don't have a creative bone in their body. They just don't have that side of their brain is just like it's numb. They just see the world as a bunch of numbers. They just see the world as a string of code, ones and zeros everywhere. They don't have any, they don't have, like I say, no creative bone in their body. It's just ones and zeros everywhere they go. And maybe they're a little bit butthurt about that, which is why they're pro AI, because they're like, it's almost like it's maybe this analogy will get me in trouble. I'll take your comment off before I say it. Maybe this analogy will get me in trouble, but maybe it's like a handicapped person, finally, they get the wheelchair and they're like, oh, I can move now. I'm mobile, maybe it's like that. Maybe that's what AI is for these people. They're like, wow, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I have no internal monologue. I am effectively an NPC. This AI thing allows me to create art, or at least that's what I'm going to call it. Wink, wink. Kikomon chimes in, AI doesn't have emotions to drive a goal. It is currently neutral. It doesn't have goals or imagination. Yeah, I agree. There's no imagination. So if there's no imagination, then you cannot then turn around and start insinuating that the AI would possess a desire. Because imagination is desire is kind of like a byproduct of imagination, really. Or a desire is a byproduct of passion, which is a byproduct of human emotion and imagination. Yeah, I don't. Again, like I say, I don't think that AI has any kind of nefarious plans for mankind as of yet. And if it did, it would be because a human being gave it that idea. That's as far as I'm going to go with that. If AI ever has any kind of nefarious plans for mankind, it's going to be because a human being put that idea in there. It's not going to be something that the AI came up with itself, in other words. Ruth says, I've had a couple aha moments of real innovation, and it was just me completely misinterpreting something, then realizing my misinterpretation was awesome. Creativity can come out of nowhere. And sometimes it's like people say writer's block doesn't happen, but I don't know, like it really, again, like it's like, are you doing a right to market thing, or are you trying to create a work of art? Because for me, like anytime I've had, say, inspiration or I've had something to say, it's almost like I really didn't have to think about it too much. It's like the ideas just came flooding in. And it's almost like the work wrote itself. The stories wrote themselves. And I was just like jotting down notes like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And that'd be awesome. And oh, what if that happened? And then it's like the ideas just come flowing in. But then sometimes it's like a faucet. It's like it just turn off. And it's like, You know, I can't, it's like I have nothing to say. You know, there are times like that where I'm just like, I have nothing to say. And I'm not a word count guy. Like, I don't do like daily word counts or anything like that. So, you know, maybe that would help. It helps some people with writer's block. Kikamon says, a program is written in stone. AI is a neutral network, just like our brains, but does not get stimuli from emotions. But see, I kind of disagree with that because I don't think that the human brain, I don't take the scientific approach, the atheistic approach of just the human brain is just a collection of neural networks that are stimulated by chemicals. You know, that's a very reductionist argument, I would say, for how the human imagination works. And that's all, you know, I'll kind of leave it at that. James Crate, bad take on AI. That is fundamentally poisoned by your conceptions of how they are currently doing it. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Maybe a little context on that. Feel free. Also, James Crate, I know that you're kind of involved in this conversation as well with some other people. If you want to chime in on this, I will go through a comment of yours, you know, piece by piece. If you want to take the time to put together a nice comprehensive piece and have like lay out a cohesive argument on this, that, or whatever, from whatever angle you want to go, just go ahead. Leave a comment down below. You know, take the time, lay it out, almost like a blog post, if you will. So then what is the AI the MSM are lately promoting? True AI or a veiled program? Oh, you guys were talking back and forth. All right. But let's say you decide to learn about a specific subject through reading. You will spend 100 years to learn what AI learned in 1 second. You see? But it's not a brain, though. It's just spitting out data. That's the thing. It's a data. If you want to, it's just collecting data and spitting it out. It needs source material. Okay. It's a machine that processes source material and then it repackages it and it spits it out. That's what it does. Fundamentally, from what I understand, from what I've been reading, this isn't me pulling it out of my ass. This is me, you know, reading up on these things, you know, not having a huge background on the matter, but just from a layman understanding, if you will, that's what I understand about it. So it's not learning. That's in the same way. If you think that's learning, I would argue that the analogy that you're giving here is almost like, I would compare it to someone in academia is learning. Are they though? Are they learning or are they just memorizing facts and then regurgitating those facts and trivial knowledge at a later date? You know, I think application is probably the greatest factor in terms of like judging whether or not somebody learned something. How do they apply the knowledge? Because from what I see, the AI is just, it's being told what to do and it's processing source material. That's all it's doing. It's collecting data and then repackaging that and regurgitating that data in a different form. No, see, great. Chimps and elephants and gorillas have all been trained to paint. Okay. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That is an observable fact. But is it considered art? And I would argue, no, it is not. Because art is a distinctly human thing. You can train a chimp to slap some paint on a canvas. Is it art? I would argue, no, it's not art. Could you train a gorilla technique so that it actually learns how to paint a flower? Sure, it's painting shapes on a canvas Does it understand what that shape represents? Probably not. Not in the same way that a human being would. And that's the point that I'm making, that art is something that is distinctly human. It's how we relate to one another. It's like a universal human language, if you will. No matter what cultural background, no matter what race you are, ethnic background, what have you, every single culture throughout mankind's history has had art in some shape, fashion, or form. Slapping paint on a canvas is not art. Not everything that a human being makes is considered art. A craft, maybe. It's arts and crafts. Some stuff may just be craft. Practicing craft, practicing technique, practicing theory. But that doesn't necessarily make it art. And there's a lot of aspects that go into art too. Like I said, a whole another topic. But I just wanted to like touch upon that in terms of this lens of like AI, because everybody's coming at it from a pragmatic standpoint. Oh, the AI is going to put us out of business. Okay. Well, when does free will come into play? You know what I mean? That's a fundamental question. You don't have to, no one's putting a gun to your head and saying you have to use the AI. Do artists, are you just saying because the AI can pump out this work in a matter of seconds, that means artists, all the artists throughout the world, have zero value? They're worthless at that point. They like, I think that's more of a personal question, if anything. You know what I mean? Like, it says, in other words, it says more about, you know, the person saying that than it does about the actual artists. You know what I mean? And I'm not casting aspersions here. You know, I'm just saying. All right, here's something. Readout. My biggest frustration when the AI problem is brought up in the creator's sphere is, quote, what do you do about it? Should creators just give up if they will be outclassed by AI? Absolutely not. Why would you? Why would you give up? Art is passion. You know, why would you give up? Art is not about making money. You know, is there money in the art world? There's a business side to art, sure. Like everybody knows that and understands that aspect. And that aspect gets talked about quite a bit. You know, how much did this piece sell for? Or how many sales did you get on that piece of work? You know, people like to talk about that stuff, the money aspect of it. But, you know, that's really only like one side. That's not really a defining factor. I don't think that's a defining factor of art, personally, how much money is tied up in it. Because the thing about the art world is a lot of that shit is used for money laundering. You know, if you've ever watched any documentaries or anything on the art world, a lot of art, a lot of the stuff that you scratch your head and you're like, really, that sold for fucking $1.5 million? Really, it was probably just a money laundering scheme. If you do enough digging, that's probably what it was. Or there's some other angle as far as that goes. Ruth says, my favorite definition of art is after you've been exposed to art, you are not the same person afterwards. Art historians say you can see its influence on everyone who comes after. Gives an example. I was not the same person after I read 1984, for example. That's always a classic example. I like that novel. Someone said that I heard that 1984 is actually a satire, that it's actually not meant to be taken literally, that it's actually kind of poking. Basically someone explaining that 1984 is a satire in the sense that it's actually poking fun at what would be understood to be conspiracy theorists. but I don't know. From satire to documentary is what it feels like sometimes today. Kikomon says, art is what we humans relate to with emotions, and the pattern can be understood by AI. AI will never have emotions, but will be able to create art to custom tailor art for individuals. So one thing on that, I remember the rise of emoticons, like the icons, the little icons, like people do the smiley face, the sad face, the angry face. What if I told you, and especially on Facebook, because Facebook used to only have the like button, but now they have all these emoticons on all the posts. And I always thought to myself, I'm never fucking using those. Why would I use those? Well, for one, it's kind of, whatever, whatever. My opinions about it. But what I'm saying is the angle that I'm coming at here, because you brought that up, the whole emoticon thing, my theory behind that, since we know that the AI generators scrape the internet for data and stuff like that, I feel like what's being said here about AI is not going to have emotions, but it will understand human emotion. How is it going to understand human emotion? You know how? Through data. And that's exactly what those fucking emoticons are all about. Mark my words. That's what those emoticons are all about. It's a quick way for the AI to recognize when people are a general consensus about things, what the general consensus about things are. Like, in other words, when the AI is scraping the internet, they can see social media, because already know damn well Facebook is completely on board with the AI. And the Facebook platform, just assume everything that's on Facebook's platform is available for AI learning. Okay. So the emoto icons, like the emoticons or emojis, there we go. That's what they call them now. So the emojis, all that emoji shit is a quick data set for the AI learning tool to begin to kind of conceptualize human emotion. That's my theory on it, at least. That's my theory. Because then what it can do is it can look at articles, it can look at posts, and it can see, the content within this post caused a negative reaction. The content within this post caused a primarily positive reaction. The content within this post made people sad. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this? So that's my theory as far as all that AI beginning to conceptualize human emotion thing goes. That's a heavy hitter. Thanks for bringing that up. Of course, Herman has to chime in with his opinion. He says, I'm pro anti-AI. A little dipsy doodle there. Dipsy doo, dunkaroo. Yeah. I think that's probably more that's more fear mongering or scaremongering than anything else. I mean, it can't change you fundamentally. However, there are people who talk about like the political sphere and stuff like that and start talking about how AI will begin to start using like disinformation. AI will be used as a machine to disseminate disinformation en masse. So if anything's going to be replaced, it would probably be legacy media. The powers that be, the establishment, if they will have no use for the legacy media anymore in terms of a human aspect. So if you are, a news anchor or something like that for one of these, like CNN or something like that, count your days are numbered as far as that goes. Because I think the establishment would probably be one of the first ones to want to take on this AI stuff, and they're doing the research right now. I'm pretty sure we're in the beta stage, of practical application. I think that's what we're witnessing right now. we're witnessing the beta stage of practical application as far as these tools go. And it's like the research and all the people who are involved in this, you know, again, not casting aspersions, but I'm just saying you're helping to grow the data sets. For who? For the powers that be. Whether it be the establishment at large, the elite, however you want to call them, the big corporations, because those are the entities that are going to benefit the most from this AI stuff in the future, because they no longer will have to interact with, you know, the lower classes, if you will. They will just have their machines, their AI machines in place to kind of like feed people their news and all this type of shit. But the argument to kind of go on that, not to turn this into a fear-mongering thing, is that the light at the end of the tunnel is why I think art in a human aspect is more important than ever before. Because we can learn, not only do we learn a lot about each other, not going to go on my soapbox here, but not only do we learn a lot about each other as human beings, but also principles too. It can't change your principles. AI, if you are someone who is strong in your convictions, you cannot be, I argue that you cannot be manipulated by AI. AI is only going to affect the people, the type of people that are affected by mainstream news cycles. You know, it's only going to really affect those type of people. You know what I mean? The people who have, you know, weak convictions, they don't have sound moral convictions. They don't really know themselves as individuals. Those are the type of people that AI, I think, will be able to effectively manipulate, which is a little bit scary if you think about it. But it's not to take away from the fact that there's light at the end of the tunnel. If you know who you are, you know what you believe, you're strong in your convictions, you operate on principle, a set of principles to the best of your human ability, you know, I don't think that this shit is going to have a huge impact on your life, you know? There's always, so long as there's human beings who can practice critical thinking skills, there's free will at that. I say, in other words, you always have a choice. No matter what is happening in the world, you always have a choice. Okay, now I get a little soapboxy. We must fight. All right, Herman. I look at it this way. With any advancement, it is man's unerring tendency to screw it up and or utilize it in the adult attainment center. Yes. Waiting for them sex bots to come out. Waiting for them sex bots. Be cheaper to keep her, as far as that goes. You guys have a lot to say on this one. I gotta get through these. We're closing in. We're past the 2-hour mark. I'm gonna let this slide because you guys are really giving me some good engagement tonight. I really am enjoying this. I have to say, this is some of the best engagement I've had on my channel since I started doing this. So thank you guys very much. All of you guys showing up in the chat. I mean that. Let's see. Kikomon says, I mean, do you think that AI that has the processing capacity of 1 million plus humans will not be able to hack its way into human programming? No, Kikomon, because maybe that was before I went off on my spiel. I'll give you benefit of the doubt on that one. I'll give you benefit of the doubt. But maybe that was pre-spiel. Because I feel like if you are somebody who knows who you are, you know yourself as an individual, you understand yourself. It's between you and even if you're one of those people, you're like, hey, listen, say what you want, about the science. Oh, yeah, your science figured that out. Oh, really? Your science. Oh, yeah, wow, your science. Wow, that's very fascinating stuff. Wow, they're doing some really great things with science. Yes, that's very impressive. That's very impressive. However, I still have a choice. I can choose what's best for me. Thank you very much. You can argue with me with science till you're blue in the face. Hey, yeah, science. Yes, it's very impressive. Very impressive. Man-made stuff. Yes, man-made laws and legislations. Yes. Oh, that's very, very impressive. Very impressive. You're very intellectual, if you will. But there's a higher degree than intellectualism. And I think that is, more of a, whether you want to call it metaphysical or spiritual, what have you. That's between you and the big man upstairs, or whatever the hell you believe in as far as that goes. It's not to say magical thinking, but it's just something that is very personal, and it's something that only you can decide, as an individual. And I think as soon as anything that tries to convince me that I need to be part of this group or this club or a movement, or I have to become a part of the hive mind, it's either I'm either one of you or I'm one of them. Red flags start going up. You know what I mean? And I think if you know who you are, you know where your convictions are, you know where you stand in terms, and you keep it real. And keeping it real, I think, gets conflated quite a bit with being based. You don't necessarily have to be based in order to keep it real. Like, you don't have to be like a degenerate or anything like that. Like, you can, try to elevate your standards and stuff, and operate upon certain principles to the best of your ability, And I feel like if you're one of those people, you're not going to be easily fooled. You're not going to be easily swayed. You can't be easily swayed. What's the fucking saying? You can't, something about robbing an honest man. You know what I mean? It's like, you can't, if, it's like, an honest man just has a certain way of operating. He just has a certain way of going about things, navigating the world, and it's not very easy to rob an honest man, because an honest man is not trying to cut corners. An honest man is not trying to make a quick buck. I feel like, that's an angle, at least an angle that you could come at. And I don't feel like AI is going to have, I'm not afraid of the AI. I'm not afraid that even if it passed the Turing test, so what? It's just like, even if it feels like you're interacting with another human being, so what? It's still not going to be able to convince you to do something at the end of the day you just don't want to fucking do. If you don't want to do something, you don't have to. You always have a choice. And that's kind of how I feel on that one. And by the way, Kikoman, I hope you don't feel like I was preaching directly at you. I'm just generally speaking. Let's see. Oh, Allie's here. Hey, Allie. Welcome. You just caught the tail end of our art and artificial AI hot topic. Let's see. Ruth chimes in. I'm terrified by the idea that AI is learning to ape human reaction by mining data from boomers. Yes, it's scanning every single. It's better watch out, world. It's scanning every meme from 2001 to 2003 as we speak. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't ban or block or stick anyone in timeout. Please, if you think I'm full of shit, have at it. This is the hot topic. I can handle it. I wouldn't be in the kitchen otherwise. endless 2001 to 2003 memes. What was some of those with the D-bag guy with the South Pole stuff and the good guy Greg and the wolf, the angry wolf, and Velociraptor. All right, it looks like we're Allie. Looks like we're wrapping up this this topic here. Let's see. Hold on. My point being, the generation that had difficulties embraced simplicity. Okay. The generation that had difficulties embraced simplicity, while the generation that has all the simplicity are bored with it and turn to difficulties or complexities. Sure. You see, I saw something just the other day. It was like kids, little fucking kids, man. Like I don't know, couldn't be any older than like 4 or 5 years old, maybe 6. He's got a fucking tablet. He's got a tablet in his lap and a smartphone in his hand. He's fucking swiping the smart. He's swiping. It was a little bit depressing, I have to say. He's swiping the smartphone, right? Watching TikTok, short form media, the TikTok shit that's already been proven to be Chinese propaganda, or not necessarily propaganda, but a Chinese fucking dumb down app. Let's just put it like that. It's a Chinese dumb down app for Americans. He's swiping through TikTok with his right hand, and he's got a fucking tablet in his lap, lounging on the couch. And then it cuts to the mom. It cuts to the kid's mom saying, I don't know what to do. Bitch, you're his mom. Take that shit out of his fucking hands. It's not a fucking democracy. It's a goddamn dictatorship. I'm the parent. You're the kid. Shut your mouth unless spoken to. It's so aggravating to see that shit. And I got to take it with a grain of salt too, because it's legacy media, but you know damn well. I can't. Kikoman. We had a choice to lock down. And that was done by human manipulation. AI manipulation will be next level. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like the whole thing that happened with that, I'll give you that. That was entirely manipulation. That was straight up legacy media manipulation. We all watched it happen in real time. And there are people now, and there's been articles where they're like, oh, amnesty. Look, we didn't know any better. And then try to flip it around and say, fuck you guys, because you didn't warn us. And it's like, what? Were you not there when we were saying the fucking masks don't work? Don't do this. You guys are acting like, you are on the wrong side of history here. And you would have been, you would have been in the crowd praising the friggin' Fuhrer. You would have been pointing out at your neighbors and say, I think there's some Jews over there. Yeah, that's true. I've heard that. All right, looks like you guys are talking amongst each other on it. Yeah, the conversation continues, you guys. Conversation continues. I think I got more than enough. We got more than enough to chew on. More than enough to chew on this one here. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. Allie. It's not neither here nor there. Has nothing to do with the subject matter, but yeah, I hear you. All right, let's move it right along, because I'm sure we can go on and on and on. And I just want to kind of give a little extra morsel, something to, some food for thought to chew on as far as that goes. The conversation continues. If you guys, you want to create your own content on this topic, tag me in the video or just get in contact with me and share a link with me, and I will feature your video during a future live stream. I'll react to it live on the air, or else take the time. Don't just knee-jerk react. Take the time, especially if you're watching this on the replay, and just think about it, collect your thoughts, and then write up a post and leave it in the comments down below, in a well thought out, cohesive post. And I will address it during a future live stream, and we'll go through it point by point by point. All right. Thank you guys for that one. We'll keep it moving here. I do have some announcements to get to. This might be a little bit longer live stream than typical, because I do have stuff to get to here. So first things first, let's jump right into it. So announcements, if you guys have anything going on with your writing, you got some Kickstarter campaigns or any kind of projects that you would like to share with me, or if you're, a reader, you're launching a book club, anything like that, you're more than welcome. I did not create my videos. We have some here. All right, this first one comes from Michael Gaddy from Twitter. He had gotten in contact with me on Twitter, and he shares, he just Earth's Best Entertainment. He wanted me to share his link tree real quick. So this is actually the creator. I've covered something before. He actually publishes comic books directly through Amazon Kindle. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way of doing it. I know it's not common, so it's kind of like a way of creating an on-demand digital copy of your comic books. So let's just check that out real quick, just see what he has to offer here. So this is how you can find his work. So look, he's got his work right there. He's on Patreon. He's on Instagram. He does have a YouTube channel. And he creates comic books for kids, by the way, you guys. So I think it was like, one of them was like Hyper Feline Ninja Warriors or something like that. And it was like cats. It was like these elementary school kids, and they like morph into these ninja cats. I remember that much. So he's got all his links there. I'll be adding that in post-production for you guys. Moving right along, the choice is yours. Of course, the easiest way to share your links with me, if you want to get your work featured on the show, is to just go ahead and join either the Gilded or the Discord. Links always in the description down below. They're down there right now. Just go ahead, do yourself a favor. If you're a creator, a reader, a writer, artist of any sort, even if you do crafts, like handmade crafts, I want to do like a show and tell kind of segment on the show. I think that would be fun. But anyways, any of that stuff. Oops, get my I just realized my banner's still going here. Any of that stuff, you can share the links directly on there. What I have is all the channels are laid out. So if you have your book, your crafts, your website, blog posts, you have videos that you post that you want me to cover, all that stuff. It's all laid out. And the reason why I created two, whether you join the Discord or the Gilded, it's up to you. Okay. I just figure some people prefer one over the other, if not both. So there you go. They're there. And for me, it would be nice because then I don't have to do so much social media stuff. I can just, boom, I can just jump on the server and start pulling stuff up for shows and do it that way. I think it would be easier for me, in other words, to do that. And it makes it a direct connection, a more direct connection between you and I, as far as that goes. Yes, Egg Beater. We covered that last week. Allie's comic. There is the link. Speaking of which, we do have a campaign to cover, but first, I want to do a little something for you ladies out there. Maybe some of you men too. Hey, I'm not going to judge. But in terms of announcements, I have something here. And this comes from Lauren MD. And she got in contact with me on Twitter. And Lauren MD introduces Age of Fantasy Romance, the February edition. And this comes via BookFunnel. So BookFunnel is like something online where they do like monthly type of book deals where a bunch of authors like get together, they submit their deals, and then it kind of gets shot out in like a newsletter type thing or whatever. I'm not 100% sure on it. It's on my list of things to look into. But anyways, she has her book is included in this month's featured presentation, if you will. So let's check that out real quick. All you romance readers out there. Here we are. Age of Fantasy Romance. That's right. Searching for your next favorite story? Look no further. These best-selling authors have teamed up to offer a magical selection of new books available for a limited time. And here we are. You can just see, you can just scroll through, and each and every single one of these is going to bring you, whether it's to their newsletter and sign up and you get a free book, or to their Amazon deals, wherever they may be. And let's see. I want to find Lauren's here. I believe hers was the mask one. Right here. Lauren MD. So this is her. These are her books right here. The Mask. Not really 100% sure. Daughter of Cloak and Mask trilogy. So something to do with her trilogy there. You guys can check that out. And speaking of periodicals, Live Free, Live Rich Weekly. This is my weekly newsletter. So if you want to just kind of stay up to date with what's going on, I am going to be doing some exclusive things with the newsletter in the near future here. I do have like some kind of gimmick type of ideas. So if you subscribe to the newsletter and you tune in to the Monday Night Live, you may have like some incentive. In other words, you may have some incentive to subscribe to the newsletter and tune in live during the show, because I may have like some gimmicks in store for the future down the road here for like giveaways and stuff like that. But yeah, I send out exactly one newsletter per week, and that will keep you updated. Like if you don't want to join any servers, you don't want to do social media stuff, whatever. This will give you everything you need to know. And also it'll give you some ideas of how you can get involved as a creator and collaborate with me and with the brand. Allie's fantasy novel, The Rotting Crown, in which we did read, I remember, was it the prologue or the first chapter? I read the beginning portion. I do remember reading the beginning portion of that novel. Is that a romance, Allie? That fantasy romance? Yeah. All one of you. It's all right. Once word gets around, don't worry about it. I'm pretty sure once word gets around town, I'll be beating them off with a stick, as far as that goes. But I'm gonna have to police my speech on the whole YA talk, because I know a lot of them like the YA, so I'll have to take it easy on the YA crowd if I want to keep my female viewership. That is. All right. Let's check out this campaign. This is from James D. Lee. This comes from the Discord server. Speaking of which, he shared it with me on there pre-launch, and now it is launched. It is live. James D. Lee introduces the Steins. This is Rise of the Vampires via Indiegogo. If you guys know me, I am a sucker for a good vampire story, I have to say. Pun intended. And if the title sounds familiar, it's because we've actually covered the Steins on the show before, but in another form. Yes, the Steins actually originated as a series of novels. So it was a trilogy. And now he's making a graphic novel. And that's what this Indiegogo is all about. So let's check it out. We'll save on the video. I've watched, it's the same trailer that he used for his books. But if you guys want to check out the video, you can do that in your own time. But let's check out the campaign as it stands right now. So the Steins, Rise of the Vampires, okay? 15% of his goal so far. Not too shabby. I have to say, not too shabby. 15% with still 51 days left. And that's 15%. One thing that I've learned about some of these comic books is a lot of creators use the flexible goal. Is that showing up? Yeah. A lot of the creators go with this flexible goal thing. So as you can see, obviously it just says this campaign will receive all funds raised, even if it does not reach its funding goal. All right. So that's what the flexible goal means. But I noticed that that's what a lot of creators do. However, a lot of creators also don't ask for as much. So for as much as he's asking, and he's already at 15%, not too shabby, I have to say, with still 51 days left to bat. So we'll see how that turns out. But the Steins says the year is 1507. The Battle of Canatvia has taken place. On the brink of death, Count Valdisov, Vicious, Vonkumfang, not very easy names, I have to say, lies dying. He made a holy blood oath to his brother, the great Prince von Stein, to always protect and defend the country and family. Now, as the great prince lies dead and the count close to death. Now, as the great prince lies dead and the count close to death, time has stopped and a deal has been made. Now the count, with one last chance, will stand and ride to save the kingdom one last time, but not as a human, but as a vampire. Unknown to him, this choice will send him and his family into darkness for over 500 years. Follow the beginning of the Stein story in the Steins, Rise of the Vampires, and how one man sacrificed everything to save his brother's family and country. What would you sacrifice for your country? Follow one man who gives up everything to save everyone in this 48-page graphic novel. 48 pages, that's no floppy. I know that much. That's no floppy. 48 pages of comic book artwork. And let's see the team here. Author art. So pencils and ink, we have James D. Lee. So kind of a Renaissance man there. He's a writer and artist, pencil artist. Colorist is Gabe El Tayyib. Now I'm familiar with that name. It's quite a big name around the comic book scene of YouTube. I know he is also working with Eric July. And then the letterer is Rick Joseph. So with some of these bundles here, so let's see, the Stein's Universe bundle. So this is the one that caught my eye. So this is what kind of compelled me to want to get involved on this one. Like I say, I'm not really a comic book guy. I'm learning about comic books. And as I learn more and more about the comic book industry, I'm beginning to become a lot more interested in the different types of projects that are going on out there. Personally, I'm more of a literary guy, this is why this caught my eye and kind of compelled me to want to get involved on this campaign. And this is the Stein's Universe bundle. So not only would you get the comic book, I already looked at this one. What you get is you get three, what I interpret it as, you get the PDF version of the comic book, and then you get 3 copies of the same graphic novel, but with variant covers. So there's 3 variant covers that you get. I don't know if it's just the cover itself. I'm pretty sure it's 3 variant copies of the book. That's what I interpret it as. And you get, but also included in this is the whole Stein's trilogy in hardback editions, mind you. So that's what really compelled me, because for one, I already covered the Steins before, the first book of the series, and I was already a little bit interested in the story itself, and I actually have the book on my TBR. So I thought, well, fuck, what the hell, man? I can get the whole trilogy right here, and I can help him out with his comic book campaign. So I was like, sold, I'm in. So let's see what else we get here. So here's the goals for this campaign. Is a $10,000 goal to be fully funded and have the comic fully colored, lettered, and published. So really reaching for that goal. Here's some special perks of the campaign that you can look at. These are what appears to be stretch goals for the campaign. You can check out. Of course, the pre-sign up would be able to get this exclusive cover, which is a cover by Jimmy Reyes and Gabe El-Tayeb. And then here's the A through the cover A by James D. and Gabe El-Tayeb. So I believe this is James D. art with Gabe on the colors for this one. Awooga! Cover B there, and cover C. So we get the main characters here. I like this cover. I think I like this cover C the most. No, I like the cover C the most. That's cool. So some of the art here, I don't know to be honest with you, I don't know a whole hell of a lot about comic book art, in terms of page layout, what the different terms are. I'm still learning this stuff myself. I'm interested and I'm still learning. And, so I guess I know I've heard of splash page. So a splash page is like either a full page or it's like a dual page artwork where the artwork spans the entirety of the 2 pages or something like that. That's what I mean by, like, what the different page designs and stuff like that, like what they're called and how they're set up. There you go. You guys got to get a little peek at what's going on with that campaign. I'll leave a link. You know where to find it. You guys saying anything? Play the Fight Kikoman song. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Readout. I don't know what to call you. Readout Productions. All right, moving right along. Let's get to the end of the announcements here, and then we'll move into a little bit of reading time. Actually, no, we'll go into videos. We'll do the featured video first, then we'll close the night out with a little reading time. I'll read you guys a little bedtime story. Actually, it's an article. But speaking of stories, the Storyteller Society is still accepting submissions. It's a little side project that I launched last year. It's kind of a peer-to-peer outreach program, if you will. So if you guys are aspiring authors who have yet to have any of your work published and you'd like to start building a name for yourself, this might be something that interests you. We're looking for flash fiction, anywhere from 500 to 2,000 words, and it can be any genre. It can even be literary fiction if you want. And if your work is approved, then you will book yourself a room at what I've dubbed the Hotel del SS, where your work will be free for public viewing. And if you're, even if you're an author who already has published works out there, this may be not only a way of expanding your creative portfolio, but just kind of like building a peer-to-peer, business-to-business relationship with yours truly. And of course, I can link, you can submit a bio as well, which may link to your own website or what have you. And it doesn't have to be exclusive. This is a non-exclusive agreement. There's no contracts involved. You don't have to sign your name in blood or anything like that. Even if it's a piece of work that you already have previously published somewhere else, like on your own blog or through an anthology or something like that, so long as you retain the right to the work and you are able to legally give me permission to republish it on my blog. That's it. And this is just the first phase of this project, mind you. I do have plans to turn this project into a bigger thing, like maybe a web series or something like that. However, I'd like to kind of get more engagement and get more artists and writers involved before I start thinking about where the next direction is with this. All right, that's it for announcements. Let's get right into the video, shall we? And this was shared on Discord. This video was shared on the Discord server, and this video comes on YouTube. Is BA Talks BA Talks #2, and this is like will be an ongoing series of his where BA talks. And this is a cover art reveal and a campaign announcement from author and artist B.A. Turner via his YouTube. So let's check this out. I've heard the name and I've seen his works before, floating around the scene. But this is actually the first that I've kind of like interacted with any of his work. So let's see what this is about. I know I do have... His is another book that I've seen through the his novel is one that I've seen through the grapevine that I do have on my, because it's on my TBR. Hey, there he is. All right. Great to have you on stream. See, this is the beauty of doing it live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm getting into your video right now. Of course, you chime in the chat if there's anything you want to add, anything you want to say about whatever it is that you're talking about in this video, but we'll just play the video through.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to BA Talks #2. Today, I would like to discuss my future plans for a crowdfunding campaign, as well as do an art review.
Not too long.
So as you know, I am working on a novel series called Vigilantes Creed. The first book of Blood and Stone was self-published just over a year ago, and book 2 is complete and will be part of this campaign. So, a bit of an overview of the campaign. It's going to be a relaunch of book 1 with some new and amazing art done by Corey Barton. And then it's going to be releasing book 2 titled Mortal Defiance, and also a mini comic. And when I say mini, I'm not talking about dimensions. I'm talking about just the length of the book. And to give some details on that, essentially it's going to be an 8-page plus comic that is going to have actual scenes from the book with detailed art that shows you all of the major characters. So the goal of this is to be able to give all the readers reference material so they can visualize the characters throughout the book. They don't have to rely on not just imagining the characters, but having to reimagine them throughout the book. Because we know people put books, down from time to time, and then they're trying to, again, figure out in their mind, what does this character look like to them? Well, they actually have the art of each character that they can reference and automatically be able to visualize that character as the character was designed by me. So that's something I haven't seen in the novel space. Some authors will have a character on the front cover, but they typically don't cover all the characters, and there may not be a lot of detail. I want to have some highly detailed art so that everyone can visualize the characters and realize how awesome they are, quite honestly. So I'm very excited for that. In this campaign, besides, again, book 1, book 2, in the mini comic, there will of course be prints, again, with all the art done by Corey Barton. If you don't know him, you should be following him. He created and produced, along with his brother, the Kozar comic, which is amazing. And I read it yesterday, so I'll be doing a review on that soon. But I'll also be doing trading cards and bookmarks and possibly some other items. So I plan on doing a full-fledged campaign with a lot of good perks for everybody. And if I can hit a certain stretch goal, I plan on giving every single backer an audiobook. If I can get to a certain level of backers and funding, I plan on producing an audiobook, because I think that would be amazing just to have. But regardless of what tier you backed, if I get to that amount, then I'm going to give everybody a free audiobook, and I'm going to make sure the narrator is amazing. So, that's something for the people that struggle with sitting down and reading a book, to give them the option to listen to it in their car during work. I think that would be amazing, and everybody can help me do that. So yeah, there's that. So what I want to do is give you a quick little elevator pitch, just so that you can get caught up to speed about what Vigilantes Creed is about. It's a gargoyle story unlike any other. It's a hero we don't deserve but desperately need. History would lead us to believe that the citizens of Detroit should turn to the police to save them, when in reality, they should be looking to the sky. When a distraught Slade Allen saves the life of Rachel Winston in exchange of his own, he doesn't expect to wake up metaphysically bound to a divine grimoire, or to have the power of one of the world's most feared supernatural creatures waiting to be unleashed. Human by day, gargoyle by night, Slade pulls at the strings of Detroit's corruption, slowly unraveling a Nazi-era secret. Such a discovery spurs the formation of a team of vigilantes determined to crush the megalomaniac behind the city's undoing. Under the alias Dread Knight, Slade and his team battle augmented mercenaries, a corrupt police force, and media deception in order to save the city before it's too late. Filled with supernatural and biblical lore, Vigilantes Creed provides a high-octane yet emotional story of vengeance and redemption. To add to that, it's a superversive story filled with emotion, with mystery, and it's highly action-packed. It has a lot of elements of escapism, but with healthy doses of realism scattered throughout the book. And one thing I think that sets it apart from a lot of novels is its action scenes and the fight scenes are highly detailed. They're very brutal and they're thoroughly thought out. A lot of feedback I've gotten so far is that when they read the book, it's like they're reading a graphic novel, or even watching a film, because it's so detailed and it was so easy to visualize the scenes. And part of that is because a lot of the inspiration was drawn from comic book films that had just amazing fight scenes. So I really tried to emulate that. So I want to provide a unique reading experience unlike any other in the novel space, especially set myself apart from traditional publishing and traditional authors, which I'll go into more detail on that topic in the near future. But, also like just for, since I was heavily inspired by comics and comic book films, I would love to have people collect my work alongside, the indie greats, the Malins, the Shane Davises, the EVSs, the Joe Balls, the Bartons, etc. I mean, there's just so many amazing artists. I would love for, my novels and my mini comic to be on display amongst those greats, and to get a chance to collaborate with folks like that. And, it's been an amazing experience collaborating with Corey. His ability to do line art and coloring, to do the entire thing, is amazing, and it's extremely convenient. So again, I highly recommend everyone follow him. I'll put a link to his Twitter below. Same goes for his brother. Yeah, I highly recommend people reaching out to him for cover art and comic book work. Can't speak highly enough. So yeah, I'm very thankful for everyone that's watched this video. And let's get to the really fun part, the art reveal. So
do it.
Here we go.
That gargoyle there. Looks like you got a little bit of H.P. Lovecraft in there. Is that what the rest of this is? So is it?
So on the right side, in the foreground, you will see Slade Allen, aka Dread Knight, who is the gargoyle of the story. And to the right of him, in the background, you have Incubus, the antagonist. And you'll see the antagonist on the back side, which is on the left, because this is a wraparound cover, with just an amazing mask design. Corey was able to really bring what was in my mind to life. So he is a wicked ass antagonist, extremely unique, psychotic, just cream of the crop when it comes to villains. And Dread Knight has some extremely unique abilities. He is not your typical gargoyle, I guess you could say. As we know, Disney's Gargoyles series is really the only comic depiction, TV depiction of gargoyles that has gotten any traction. And this story is completely unique to that. It is not a medieval backstory. It's much more tied to biblical lore and supernatural lore. It is completely unique, and I am confident you guys will absolutely love it.
I'd like to see gargoyles make a comeback.
And you'll also see in the background there, on the front cover, so on the right side there, a very iconic building in Detroit, which anyone from Michigan will probably recognize it, and especially anyone that has watched and especially loved the film Batman vs. Superman, because that building plays a very crucial role in that film. So there you have it. That is the new cover art of Blood and Stone, which again will be part of the campaign. I plan on releasing the art for book 2, Moral Defiance, probably in the next week. And my goal is to do the pre-launch, probably through Indiegogo starting in March. And then probably come May, do the launch of the campaign. And hopefully do an awesome launch party on one of the many amazing YouTube channels that are out there. And see what I can make happen on this crowdfunding. So appreciate you guys joining me. I'd appreciate it if you guys could share this.
Well, that's well, good for you as far as that goes. You'll have to get back in touch with me once you're ready to launch on that one. Like once it's like you can do it in the pre-launch, and I could do I could make like an announcement or something. But like once it actually you get like the launch going, I would definitely cover that. No problem at all. No problem at all. Thanks for stopping by, and yeah, keep me updated as far as that goes. And then maybe when you do, like for instance, like one thing that I haven't done yet, BA, one thing I haven't done yet is I haven't had anyone with like a Kickstarter or anything like that, like on stream. So if you want to do something like for your launch day, in other words, unless you have someone else. If you have someone else lined up for your launch day, that's another thing. But I mean, if you don't have any plans for your launch day or anything like that, or if you're not doing it on your own channel, or if you want to do like a short or anytime after your launch, and you want to come on stream, and we could do something like that. And I think that would be fun, where you can kind of like, we can go through the entire campaign, and kind of you can, as we're kind of like walking through the campaign, you can kind of give the finer details, if you will. I think that would be fun. All right. As far as videos go, you guys, featured videos, this can be anything. Like if you do like poetry readings, if you do video essays, if you do like web series or anything like that, you can share the videos, a link to the videos with me. And I'll feature it during the live stream. Sometimes I do a little bit of commentary, sometimes a first impressions type of deal. But now we're going to kind of wrap this stream up. We are over 3 hours now. This is probably one of my longest streams. Maybe almost, if I get this kind of engagement on a regular basis, you guys, this might actually justify me doing a second stream during the week. Just tossing that one out there. If this is something that continues to happen on a regular basis, I may figure out a way to kind of do like a second show. It might not be exactly the same format. I may want to try to do something different. So it might not be the same exact format, but if I continue to get this kind of like showing on a weekly basis, like on a consistent basis, then I'll do a second stream. I'll come up with some ideas for a second show during the week. I'll just lay that out there. No promises, but just laying it out there. But let's get into some reading time. This is actually going to be an article from last week that I did not get to, but we're just going to go ahead and get to it because I'm not going to push it. I'm not going to push it a second week. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to do it. I don't think it's too long. But this has to do with crafts, handmade crafts, or just crafting in general, more specifically jewelry. And this comes from Jewelry Queen NZ. It says, I'm new to the writing community, blog and blogging, but I've decided to blog about things I know to start with. Is costume jewelry mean and nasty? Or is it fashion blogger nirvana? Hashtag Chanel. There you go, ladies. Reading time, a little bit of reading time with some fashion jewelry. Don't ask me anything about it because I know nothing about jewelry. But let's see. This is about not the value of jewelry, but this is about cheap and nasty costume jewelry. The Influence of Coco Chanel by Corinne Busing via jewelryqueens.com is the name of her blog. All right, let's give it a quick read, shall we? All right. Cheap and Nasty Costume Jewelry, The Influence of Coco Chanel by Corinne Busing. Coco Chanel is one of the most influential figures in the world of fashion. Born Gabrielle Bonheur Chanel in 1883 in Saumur, France. Chanel was a pioneering designer who revolutionized the way women dressed. She was particularly influential in the field of costume jewelry, using it to elevate and accessorize her designs in a way that had never been done before. Chanel was orphaned at a young age and spent much of her childhood in a convent. She later moved to a boarding house for young women, where she learned to sew and began making hats. In 1908, she opened a shop in Paris called Chanel Modes, or Chanel Modes, which sold hats and other accessories. Chanel's early designs were notable for their simplicity and elegance. She favored clean lines and classic neutral colors, and her use of jersey fabric set her apart from other designers of the time who were more likely to use stiff, formal materials like silk and satin. One of the key ways in which Chanel revolutionized fashion was through her use of costume jewelry. Prior to Chanel, costume jewelry was seen as cheap and tacky, something that only the lower classes wore. But Chanel saw the potential for costume jewelry to be used as a way to add interest and flair to an outfit, and she began incorporating it in her designs in a way that was both sophisticated and stylish. Chanel's use of costume jewelry was particularly influential in the 1920s when she launched her first collection of costume jewelry. This collection featured a range of necklaces, earrings, and other pieces made from a variety of materials, including glass beads, semi-precious stones, and metal. The pieces were designed to be worn in a casual, relaxed way, with multiple pieces often worn together to create a bold, eye-catching look. Chanel's costume jewelry was an instant hit, and it helped to establish her as a leading figure in the world of fashion. I like the flow of this article, I have to say. So you're new to writing, but it doesn't seem like you're that new to writing. Her use of costume jewelry inspired other designers to follow her lead, and it played a major role in popularizing the use of costume jewelry in high fashion. Today, costume jewelry is an integral part of many fashion collections, and it is widely accepted as a legitimate form of fashion accessory. It's all about altering perception. In addition to her contributions to the world of fashion, Coco Chanel is also remembered for her influence on women's liberation. She was a strong advocate for women's rights and was instrumental, this is kind of a side note here, instrumental in popularizing the boyish look that characterized the flapper style of the 1920s with her relaxed, easy-to-wear clothing and her use of costume jewelry. Chanel helped to pave the way for a new, more independent and empowered image of womanhood. In conclusion, Coco Chanel was a revolutionary designer who had a profound impact on the world of fashion. Her use of costume jewelry helped to elevate it from a cheap and tacky accessory to a legitimate form of fashion, and her designs continue to inspire and influence fashion designers today. Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, I like to, I fancy the idea that I'm somewhat of a fashionista myself, For instance, all my girlfriends throughout my life, yeah, that's right, they used to come to me, believe it or not, for their fashion advice. Nothing too fancy, just some tips every now and then. And believe you me, I always had just the tip for the right attire. I remember this chick one time, she caught me off guard during the early afternoon, what I call brunch time, mind you. Suddenly I hear, "Oh, babe." I look over and she's standing there with her hands on her hips, asking me, "What do you think would look good on this birthday suit?" And without even skipping a beat, I gave her the once-over from her face down to her feet. And I said, "Hey, how'd you like a pearl necklace?" Oh. And she was looking pretty good. It looked pretty good on her, I have to say. But that's the thing about fashion, though. What looks good on one broad might not look so hot on another. It's all about whether or not she's got what it takes to pull it off. Well, that's it for me this week, ladies and gentlemen. Suddenly, I'm in the mood for some pancakes. So I hope y'all had some fun. I hope y'all discovered something new. But don't fret, because guess what? I will be back here for you next week, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's 6 p.m. Pacific. Have a good week, sweet cheeks.